right, we're back. The diddlers apparently did not like what we're talking about tonight. And so we got showed, and I have really good equipment now that always has an excellent connection, 300 plus meg up and down. And out of nowhere, all of it just went away, crashed out. And funny enough, it happened about 20 minutes ago, I guess it was 25 minutes ago. And that would be the turn of the day to 9/11. Yeah, it happened right at about 29 minutes ago. So that would have been on the top of the hour that happened. Just what? That would be, so midnight would be on Mountain Time right now. So midnight Mountain Time. The turn to 9/11, the date 9/11. They kicked it all off on me. Killed the internet completely. I mean, shut it all down. And then I didn't notice it at first. It didn't, I wasn't looking at the actual video. I had a screen pulled up with just the comment section. And so I didn't see at first that the stream had ended. And then I noticed that the chat amount was dropping. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And that's when I noticed that I had lost it all. So then I went to fire everything back up, and it didn't want to start back up. Also, YouTube brought a pop-up page in the creator studio and wasn't letting me go past it. It was acting like I had to reestablish everything all over again on YouTube. It was very odd. So definitely think the diddlers got me on this particular one tonight, because the equipment I have now for doing live streams and everything is way more than adequate, like far beyond adequate. I have a really good internet connection now. It's never failed me since I fired it up, or since I first got it. I don't recall anyway. And so very interesting that it decided on the hour to dump me tonight, wipe out my internet. And I mean, it completely wiped out my internet too. So I have no idea where I was on the last part before we lost contact. So I'm just going to pick up in my rant where I was earlier. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Charlie Kirk question. Earlier in the stream tonight, John Connor had asked about Charlie Kirk, what I thought about all of that was going on with him. Now I will finally give you what you've probably already expected I'm going to say. But for those of you who don't know this channel all that well, maybe you wouldn't. But Charlie Kirk's assassination, whether it's real or a hoax, because remember, it could be, there is a chance, a small chance, but there is a chance. I mean, we know that Trump wasn't shot in the ear for real. That was a hoax, and it was bloody looking. And he works for the Yiddy Diddlers. Charlie Kirk works for the Yiddy Diddlers. So there is a chance that it's a hoax. Okay, and that he was not murdered, that he'll end up being re-charactered into something else and moved, his family will be moved elsewhere and whatever, and he'll have to live out his life somewhere else as some other kind of person. But even if it's real, whether it's real or a hoax, it was ordered by the Jays. to erase all of the rage from white people against blacks right now because of Iryna's death. And that is why I have done this live stream tonight dedicated to Iryna, not to Charlie Kirk, who pushed Zionist Jews first, all this crap. Instead, and if he really is dead, that is terrible, and that is terrible for his beautiful blonde wife and his 2 blonde children. And I feel for them deeply. But they have millions of dollars of Jew-given money, and Iryna's family does not. And so Iryna was not pushing Zionism, and Iryna was not duping millions of our white people into obeying the Jews. So Charlie Kirk's death was ordered by the Jews. Whether it's a hoax or real, it was ordered by the Jews to steal all the thunder from Iryna's murder and all of the rage that white people rightfully have right now against the blacks because of Iryna's murder. That is why Charlie Kirk's assassination happened today. So that's my answer about Charlie Kirk. And, I was going to bring up the other picture by itself again that's a little bigger. But this one here needs to be stared at for quite a while, too. This is her as she realizes she's going to die, that she's already been stabbed multiple times, that she's bleeding out, and that she will die. And this series of pictures right here should haunt all of us white people for the rest of our lives as mortals. Every one of us for the next 30, 40, 50 years we live should be haunted by these 3 images right here. And the one where he's reared up and she's still got her glasses on and looking at her phone. All 4 of those images should haunt us for the rest of our mortal days. And we will have pictures of her, these pictures here, to show generations in the future when they ask why we don't allow non-whites to live in our country among us, why we kicked them out so violently and so immediately and so abruptly, and why no one but white people are allowed in our countries, and why we're not allowed to travel to visit and help non-white countries. These videos, these pictures, and all the countless tweets from blacks celebrating the murder of all of our white children, Austin Metcalf and Ashley Babbitt, and all these white people who've been killed by non-whites and particularly blacks. All through the years, all the blacks celebrating it, all the blacks setting up GoFundMes to defend all of these murderous, worthless boons. We're going to show them all these things, all the Jews who brag about imposing all these non-whites into our country so that we will be exterminated by them. We're going to show our children all of these things. Praise God for technology, for body cameras, for cameras on trains like this one. So we now have, you got to understand, this horrible, horrific murder of this beautiful girl happens every day to our white girls, every day. And the only reason you aren't impacted by them like this one is because they happen not in front of a camera, front row view, for a camera to get perfect footage of it. But these cameras are situated in these train cars where they do get good front row view of everyone sitting in them. And so now, finally, what we've been warning white people for years is happening every day to white girls, every day, by blacks in particular and especially. We now have video and still footage to show that this is what white people are ignoring every day happening to white girls all across our world, not just this country, all across Europe, all across Canada, all across Australia, all across New Zealand. This girl covers her face because she knows that she's about to take her last breath and pass away. And she's crying, knowing that she's going to die in just a moment of time. Knowing that what happened to her just then was a horrific, deadly attack that has already sealed her fate for death. This will be your daughter someday. This will be your wife someday. This will be your dear mother someday. If you don't help our people snap out of their stupidity, starting with Sabbath and continuing on with the identity of our people, who's who in our holy Bible, the white man's religion, not the Jews' religion, not the non-whites' religion, the white man's religion. From Genesis to Revelation, it's the white man's holy Bible, the white man's religion. Jews did not write any part of our holy Bible, not one verse, not one book. Our holy Bible warns us that Jews are our arch enemy. From the beginning mention of them all the way to the end. Titus 1:14. Pay no attention to Jewish fables. Our holy Bible never warns us to ignore any other race's lies. It never warns us, be wary of Russian lies. Granted, Russia wasn't a name back then, but it never warns us about any other race's lies. It doesn't say beware of the Assyrians' lies, beware of the Scythians' lies, beware of the Romans' lies, beware of the Greeks' lies, beware of barbarian lies, beware of Asian lies, beware of blacks' lies. It never warns us about any other race's lies to ignore, except for theirs. Now, do blacks have lies against us? Absolutely, but guess where they came from? You think blacks came up with those talking points and arguments? No. Every piece of rhetoric, every argument, every talking point against white people that blacks have ever had were given to them and taught them by the Jews. So even when you're combating and arguing against what you think are black lies against white people, what are they really? They're Jewish lies. And so Titus 1:14 isn't telling you don't fight against their lies. Of course we should be doing that. But what it's meaning is it doesn't want you to believe any of their bullshit. That's what it's saying. Don't believe Jewish nonsense. It's not telling you don't speak against it. It doesn't mean pay no attention to it as though it's not there. And when I say ignore it, I'm meaning ignore it as in you don't believe it yourself, but you still speak out against it. You still call it out as lies. And make sure when you call these lies out as lies that you call them out as Jewish lies. They are Jewish lies. And they need to be called out as such. And I don't know where I was in the rant and my responses when it died earlier. So I've mentioned the Charlie Kirk thing in case it cut out before I got to that. There were other white people this week slaughtered, probably 100. But there were at least several that we know about. And I apologize that I do not have the names of those victims tonight. I did not have time to look those up and tally them together and get those names compiled so that I could say them tonight on the stream. But God bless all of them and rest in peace to all of them, and prayers to all their families as well. I just wanted to do a special and specific prayer for Iryna tonight because she is the most recent one. She's the most visible one, the most documented one we have on video here. And her murder is trying to be stolen away. The rage we have against blacks is trying to be taken away and dissolved completely and overshadowed entirely by Charlie Kirk's assassination. And so that is what is going on. And so it's just a bad, all around, a terrible scenario, a terrible situation. And it needs to be spoke about constantly, harped on constantly, and the steam was just starting to pick up. We had forced all of the mainstream media to start talking about it. We even have the conservatives talking about it, Salty Cucker, Veteran Cucker, all those grifters, the Sheckler YouTubers, they're all talking about it. And in a flash, Charlie Kirk's death suddenly is more important. A guy who shilled for our enemies the entire time he was out on the trail. He was a useful Shabbos goy, and the Jews decided that they needed something very big to take away the rage that white people are, as the rage that's building in white people against blacks right now because of Iryna's murder. And that is exactly why they had this Charlie Kirk assassination happen today. Because just hours before, all the mainstream media had to start putting out videos and articles about Iryna. And the Jews are like, okay, we're having to do it to stay up with, the social media and independent media online. So we need something big to drown this out completely. And assassinating Charlie Kirk was the perfect solution. Yum Joy style is here. God bless you and hello. And he said, now because of Charlie, we can forget about the Wakandans and we can forget about Charlie because of 9/11. Right. I mean, that's the thing is, I already was worried about 9/11 being a thing that they're going to do something today. So I recommended earlier in Elijah's stream, I warned everyone in the chat to not go anywhere today that is a famous place. All right, today is not, because September 11th is a day they like to pull some stunts on us, and even big ones, big attacks and stuff. And it's absolutely like them to pick that same date again to do another monstrous attack on us at some other point. I could totally see that being the case as part of their humiliation rituals against us, doing a repeat on the same date on another day or in another year, So every year when 9/11 comes around, I'm always warning people, don't go anywhere that's famous, anywhere that's heavily populated, with people. Don't go to a festival or a concert or, any major attractions. I still feel like one of these days the Jews are going to attack one of our children's parks. That would be an ultimate humiliation ritual, an ultimate strike against our white people by slaughtering lots of our children in one place at one time. So definitely avoid tourist destinations, famous places. Today, I should say, is not a day to visit Hoover Dam or the Grand Canyon or anywhere that's famous. Anywhere where the Jews could perform some kind of atrocious, massively destructive act and kill many people at once to rile up the nation against Iran or whoever. So, and yes, this is absolutely a distraction from Iryna's murder. That's exactly what this is. And so, the Charlie Kirk thing anyway. And so be on the lookout today. Be expecting something terrible to happen to our people today somewhere by the Jews. Apparently they like doing it on this day. I hope nothing happens. Many 9/11s have come and passed, and nothing happened. But that doesn't mean that they're not planning on using a 9/11 one of these years to do another nasty attack on us. So I do recommend everybody stay away from famous places, popular places, heavily populated places, festivals, gatherings. And, it's just for our own good. It's just for our own safety right now. We're at war. There's a war against us being waged, and it's basically almost fully hot. And so it's just best to keep your children, safe at home on 9/11. I realize kids are expected to go to school tomorrow. As a parent, I would struggle right now these days allowing my kid to go to school on 9/11. I did allow them to in the past after 9/11 happened. But, the war against Whitey wasn't as live as it is now. So I don't even know if I'd allow my kids this day and age, this particular year, to be going to school on 9/11. I think I'd probably keep them home for the day. Yumjoy Style also said, can also forget about the Wakandan killing the veterinarian walking her dog. Yes, that's one of the other ones that just happened. And God bless her. And gosh, there's been so many slain recently. I mean, you had that couple that was sitting at the bus stop, and the white man was beheaded by some psycho. Then you had there was a white man just slain yesterday in the UK. No news about him on any popular news or mainstream news at all. I was only notified about him through a commenter earlier in another stream. We had another young, beautiful blonde girl who was attacked and killed by a black just several days ago. I forget what her thing was. I want to say she was going to college. She was a student in college, or something like that. Um, it's just it's it's sickening, and uh, at some point, white people are going to have to just pull their head out of the sand. I mean, that's the bottom line. James Thomas is here, y'all. God bless you, sir, for stopping by and chiming in. I know it's late. I appreciate all of y'all's time. I know it's precious. Thank you for stopping by and chiming in. And he said, non-believing Jews don't publicly pronounce their faith in Jesus Christ numerous times. You aren't recognizing Charlie Kirk as a fellow Christian. You're confusing a Zionist respecting Christian as referenced in the Bible for a Jesus-denouncing Jew of today who basically worships Satan. Well, let me see if I can fully grasp exactly what you mean by how you worded everything. Non-believing Jews don't publicly pronounce their faith in Jesus Christ. Well, so I think what you must have taken from what I was saying there is that I think he's a Jew. I don't think he's a Jew at all. I think he was working for the Jews, and he has a huge bank account now because he worked for the Jews, pushing Zionism, pushing what the Jews want first, above and beyond what is good for white people. He also pushed homosexuals being welcome in the fake conservative movement of theirs. Civ Nats are not beneficial to us. I mean, it may appear as though they are because, after all, he amassed so many people and everything else. But he was a gatekeeper and a sheepdog, guiding the sheep to the slaughter. And that's why he was allowed to be promoted and get tons of, they probably started him off with gobs of fake views and gobs of fake subscribers. And then that duped many white people into starting to subscribe and listen to him, also thinking, wow, 100,000 people at a time are listening to this guy. I better tune in. And then they subscribe. And then now some of the views slowly over time become real. The numbers grow. And eventually the numbers are large. But it started off as, a con. And so white people are duped into that a lot. They see a ton of views on some brand new YouTuber or whatever when he first came out, on YouTube. And they think, well, I got to stay up with the Joneses. I want to know what everybody else is knowing by watching this, so I better watch it too. And so, boom, that click becomes a real view. And then he goes, oh, well, I don't want to be missing out on what the guy has to say since so many people are tuning into him, so I better subscribe. So they subscribe. So now that subscription is real. But it doesn't have to start off all being organic and real and natural and grassroots. It starts off with the Jews giving him, several 100,000 fake views, making one or two of his videos go allegedly viral with allegedly millions of views. And then that dupes white people into following along. And so Charlie Kirk was controlled opposition. That's pretty much all he was. But he was not controlled opposition. He was controlled gatekeeper, on our side. He wasn't trying to oppose our side. He was trying to pretend he's a leader of our side. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. But they used his death, whether it's a hoax or not, to drown out the rage white people are supposed to be continuing right now against the blacks for Iryna's murder. Let's see here. Washing Machine tuned in and said hello and gave a salute. Hello. God bless. Thank you for chiming in. John Doe is here. Hello. God bless you. And thank you, sir, for chiming in. I appreciate your time stopping by such a late hour. And he said, tell it, brother, you legend. Keep up the good work. I had to stop in for a sec to say hi. Have a good one. Thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words, your kind visit. I appreciate all your support. I had started off the stream earlier, the first stream that got cut off. I started it off by saying, that I wanted to do a stream about Iryna already earlier when I first heard about this, and I just couldn't at the time. And tonight I had the ability, and I wasn't prepared uh, technically or physically or mentally to do it. I've been in basically an emotional wreck over these several of our innocent white people who've been murdered in the last several weeks that we know about anyway. And I've been trying to come up with ways to utilize these to introduce them to people I love, to show and further emphasize my warnings to them. And I've been having to do all that while I absorb the rage I have for the blacks right now and for the Jews right now over this. And so it's not an easy task, to get through. But for all of our white people's sake, for these victims' sake, for this beautiful girl's sake, we're going to have to. We're going to have to power through. We're going to have to absorb a lot of hatred and a lot of rage. We're going to have to absorb it for now, contain it for now, but never forget. You hear the Jews all the time demanding us to never forget stuff that's important to them. Well, I insist that we never forget these innocent, poor victims of our people, particularly this one here, Miss Iryna. And I wasn't prepared to do any of this tonight. I didn't want more and more time to pass, and then Charlie Kirk's assassination situation today forced my hand to do this tonight. I have not looked to see if Iryna has a GoFundMe, and I feel terrible that I have not looked for that yet. In fact, I'm going to look for that right now while I'm on the stream with you all. And when I finish the stream, if there is a GoFundMe for Iryna, I will be sending her family a generous gift. So, okay, there is one. We need to make sure, though, because, even a nog can put up a freaking thing about her and then just pocket all the money themselves. So we need to figure out, which one's real, or if this one's real, if this is the only one and it's real. Let's see here. Okay, Keith Woods has donated. It does look like maybe this is the right one. Let's see here. I'm looking through the donators to see what the names look like. All right. Seeing a lot of odd names, a lot of Jewish names. It's not a good sign. Yeah. I don't want to mislead anyone to donate to a GoFundMe that would not truly go to her family. So let me just make sure there aren't other ones. Let me check this one. Okay, verified fundraiser. Make sure what this one says. A verified fundraiser supporting Iryna, 23-year-old, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Okay, yes, the one going to Frank Caskell Haskell. I'm sorry. The GoFundMe that is being paid to Frank Haskell is indeed a real GoFundMe for her. It is indeed. And it has raised $329,000. So that is the one. And what I'll do real quick, let me go over here and I'm going to pull it up. Let's go. Boom. And we're going to add GoFundMe. We're going to add it right now. Okay, here it is. Apologize for your wait. I'm just trying to pull it all up here. And thank you, Keith Woods. Keith Woods donated $10,000 to the family. God bless you for that, buddy. Thank you very much for such a generous donation to her. Okay, we're going to go over here. I'm going to pull this up and put it on screen. Let's bring it up here. Okay. There we go. Let's go back to it. And here we are. Here's Miss Iryna. $329,000 raised so far. I will be donating as soon as I end this stream. This is going to her uncle, Frank Haskell. So if you folks could please donate to her family. And here are some of the comments. I'm going to run through some of these so that people have a voice. And feel free to pause these and read them. Thank you all very much who have already donated, and I apologize to the family that I have not already done so. And I will correct that as soon as this stream ends tonight. Oh, it makes me so angry. Their day is coming, y'all. Their day is coming. I can't say when white people are going to wake up. I can't say when the Lord is going to bless our people to finally wake up. But my prayer is that it happens in our lifetime. My prayer is that it happens soon, very, very soon. If only I could be the one to bring this idiot justice, this worthless piece of garbage. If only I could be the one to do it. If only I could be the one to find him. It's going to have to start being done that way, y'all. It's going to have to start being done the right way. The government is not going to punish them. The government slaps them on the wrist and lets them out on purpose. It's going to have to be us. At some point, we the people have to take over. That's the bottom line. So if you don't mind, y'all, we'd really appreciate if y'all would just donate. It don't matter if it's $5, $1. Just please donate or something to show to our God that you care. Think of it as a tithing to our Holy Father. Thank you, Alexei Sundayev. Thank you, Alexei, for your $1,000 donation to her family. And it looks like it won't show us any more comments than that. Oh, man. God bless you, sweetheart. I'm really sorry what happened to you. We're all very, very sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. None of our innocent white people do. And it's just an absolutely horrific tragedy. And we've said a prayer for you tonight. That's all we can do at this exact moment. But vengeance for you will come. It will come. I'm sorry it won't do you any good, but it will come anyway. Yum Joy Style said, it's important to remember who did what to Iryna. But it's important to remember she left the men of Ukraine to die, to come to America to become a BLM supporter. She supported sitting in front of that nog without a care because she thought they were innocent victims. Well, the alleged bedroom with the bedroom with the picture of Black Lives Matter in it is hotly debated whether or not that's actually her bedroom. And like I mentioned earlier, which you may not have been a part of the stream yet at that point, I mentioned earlier that it doesn't matter. First of all, it doesn't matter if she was a BLM supporter or not. A white girl of ours being murdered by blacks is a white girl of ours being murdered by blacks. And it needs to stop, and it needs to stop yesterday. So it doesn't matter if she was a leftist kook or a Black Lives Matter supporter. She was from an all-white world. And all-white worlds are completely cucked about non-whites. They have no idea about non-whites because they have no experience with them. And so all this girl has ever been shown when she looks at pictures of America are pictures of a black guy with a blonde girl, 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 black guy with a blonde girl. Any commercial she would see of America was a black guy, smart, sophisticated, wearing white people's clothes, sitting at a laptop in his immaculate, clean, giant home, doing stock trades on the laptop while his white wife and mongrel kids bring him breakfast. She doesn't know anything about blacks. She's never been around them. She has no experience with blacks. She's from an all-white world. And so, as I was mentioning in the stream earlier, and someone else confirmed for me earlier in the stream, and I apologize for not knowing who that name of the person was at the moment, but someone confirmed with me in the stream who lives in New Hampshire. I mentioned that the northern states that are 98% white and all that are more cucked about blacks than white people who live around blacks. You know, white people in the South are far less cucked about blacks than Yankees that live way up north that have no blacks where they live. They don't realize they live in an all-white utopia. They don't realize that they live in heaven compared to folks who live in the South or anywhere where blacks exist. And so, even though many people claim that that was not her bedroom, and therefore the whole idea of her being a Black Lives Matter activist is debunked, there's none of that on her social media. She has no Black Lives Matter crap on her social media. It's just a rumor started to make people not care as much about her murder. And when that didn't work very well, the Jews said, fuck it. Have Charlie Kirk assassinated, whether it's a hoax, staged event, and he's not really dead, or whether they really killed him. Either way, they knew that would take all of the attention off of Iryna's murder, and by default would take all of the rage white people had against blacks about her murder. It would erase all of it. It would drown it all out. Yumjoy then asks, so if she was burning coal, we should ignore that? Ukraine has Nazi communities. She was not ignorant to them. Well, I mean, here's the bottom line. White girls are taught what to believe, okay? And whose fault is it that our white girls are being allowed to be taught all these things without us white men saying or doing anything to stop it? It's our fault. So I'm not victim blaming here necessarily, because us white people are the victims of her murder, even though she's the ultimate victim, obviously. But think of the saying, we deserve what we tolerate. We deserve what we allow. And what are we always trying to do here online with white people? We're trying to wake more and more and more white people up so that white people finally can all, as a collective, rise up together. And why are we doing that? Because one white person individually at a time doesn't have the military might to enforce God's way upon this established organization of ours that's been commandeered, known as our government. And because one white guy at a time cannot conquer the 240 million non-whites in our country that all need to be removed. And because we, one at a time as white individual, do not have the financial power, the political power, the military power to enforce justice in our countries at this time, the best approach we have is to try to wake up as many of our white people as possible, because we'll only ever have strength in numbers. How are we being destroyed by the non-whites? By their numbers. They've overwhelmed our financial system. We're $36 trillion in debt since we've allowed them in our country by the billions. Just blacks alone cost us over $600 billion per year in food, shelter, births, funerals, living expenses, cell phones, home internet. You name it, we pay for it for them. And we pay for all other non-whites, birth to death, and their food and their housing and their cell phones and their car note and their freaking internet, all in between. And then we pay for their funerals. And we pay for their health problems. And we pay for all their legal battles. And we pay for all their incarceration time. And we pay for their ankle monitors and their probation because they don't have to pay any of those things. And at some point, white people have to snap out of their stupidity. And so to worry about whether or not a girl's a coal burner, whether or not a girl's a Black Lives Matter person, what that does is that makes us okay with yet another white person being murdered. I'm not okay with any white person being murdered by blacks existing in our country. Whether it's a leftist cuck, a duped white girl who our white men should have raised the right way and taught the right way. But again, she came from an all-white world where her parents had no reason to think that they needed to teach her and to give her the talk that white people need to be given to avoid the groid. Around blacks, never relax. And then when they foolishly let her come to America, it didn't occur to them that they needed to teach Iryna not to trust blacks, you know? And so I don't blame her. And I don't care if she was a coal burner. I don't care if she was a Black Lives Matter supporter, a cucked leftist, because she was following what she was taught. Girls are like puppy dogs. They don't know anything when they start out. You have to tell them and teach them every single thing, and whatever they are taught, that's what they believe, and that's what they follow. And she came from an all-white world, and she had no reason to think that non-whites behave any different than all the people she'd ever been around, which happened to be only white people. And so she assumes when she gets on a train car that all the blacks on the train car she sees are surrounding her in every direction, behave exactly like her and all her people act. And the bottom line is they're not supposed to be in our country for her to have had to have chose where to sit either near or far from them in the first place. And she didn't die only because she sat in the chair immediately in front of the murderous Nog. Her death sentence was sealed the minute that she stepped into that train car and the door closed. And it wouldn't have mattered where she sat in that train. She could have had her back against the wall all the way on the other side of the train car, and that murderous Nog would have gotten up and walked across the train car and stuck her in the neck just the same. And the only difference would have been she would have saw it coming. And you could argue that, oh, well, maybe she could have defended herself better. Perhaps. But we're talking a 100-pound, 5'4" girl compared to a 6'3" or whatever, 200+ pound nog. Okay, she's not going to fight it off. She's going to end up getting stabbed. He wanted to stab her. She's white. She's trapped on the train car with him. She's getting stabbed. And it wouldn't matter where she sat. Wouldn't matter that she had earbuds in or didn't. Wouldn't matter if she had her head on a swivel or didn't. Wouldn't matter if she was strapped or not. She was going to get stuck. And if she had a gun and shot him, she might have shot him, but he'd have still stabbed her. You can shoot a violent 200-something pound black while they're charging you. And even though they get shot, they're still going to keep coming and they're still going to stab you. But she had no indication ever taught to her from where she was from. She's only been in America a short while. And she hasn't had experience with violent blacks. And that's why she was sitting there thinking she was carefree, okie dokie to sit there. And I realize it's hard for people who live in America to believe that girls wouldn't know better, but they don't. When they come from an all-white world and they've never even been around blacks before, you can't expect just because they've been in America 2 months or 2 years that they understand blacks. They don't. And so, you know, some of the girls come over here specifically wanting to screw blacks. You know, I mentioned a Russian girl that I know about for a fact that came over here and did that and went nutsoid as soon as she got here, screwed all kinds of blacks. Became the biggest mud shark imaginable. But it's because she had never seen them before and she thought of them as an oddity and figured, fuck it, as soon as I have access to something different than white people, I'm going to screw a whole bunch of it and see if I like it. But we have white girls here that are just the same. And yes, it's sickening, and yes, it's vile, and yes, it makes them less than a woman in an instant, and yes, they're defiled and ruined forever in that moment, the first moment in an instant, but they were duped into being that way. They were trained, raised up that way. Think about fighting dogs. You know, Michael Vick and all these dog fighters that raise up these dogs. They treat them like shit. They starve them. They abuse them. Every time they interact with them, it's with mean spirit to keep them amped and angry and agitated and ready to fight at all times. So that when they finally do put them in an event, in a ring with another dog, they will immediately just go to what they're trained to do, what they've been agitated and taught to be like. Our girls are no different. Our girls are taught to believe that we're the worst race and that all the other races are better than us. And unless we white men come along and go, no, babe, all those people who are telling you that garbage all happen to hate white people and want you to believe that horse shit so that you'll screw the non-whites and ruin yourself. No white man warned her. And that's our fault. And that's the reason for this channel. That's the reason for many pro-white people channels. I'm not just trying to wake up our white men so that we can do something about all this. I'm trying to wake up our white women at the same time so they won't put their own selves in harm's way until we get enough of our men awakened. No white man warned this girl in a proper fashion, showing her evidence, showing her proof on their phone. Look, this white girl was murdered by this black. This white girl was murdered by this black. This nice white lady was murdered by this black yesterday. This white lady was murdered by a black guy 2 days ago. This white lady was murdered by a guy yesterday. This white lady was murdered by a black guy a month ago. This white lady was murdered by a guy 2 weeks ago. You got to have the evidence on your phone in a folder. I have a folder on my phone just for white victimization. It's not titled that way. I'm just expressing it that way or articulating it that way to you all so you know what kind of folder I'm talking about. And each picture, I make sure I save one that shows the victim, the pretty white person, and then it shows the killer right beside him. So that I can just thumb through one after another, after another, after another, after another. And I have hundreds of them. I probably have over 1,000 of them in that folder. And so when I do warn white girls and white women, I show them those one after another. And I say it just that way. This white girl was murdered the other day by this black dude. This white girl was murdered the other day by this black dude. This white girl was murdered 2 weeks ago by this black dude. And I go one after another after another. And I keep going until I've burned my point into their memory, seared it into their soul for good. And so even if they don't yield to my warning, they'll remember it. They'll remember it because I went through so many one after another, blast and speed talking through it, matter of fact in it. And in their heart of hearts, they'll know that all of those examples I showed were real. And so in the moment, after they've ignored my warning and they're being killed, and they have the look on their face that this poor girl had in her last few breaths she took after she realized she had been stabbed fatally and that she would definitely die in just another few moments in that chair on that train car. They will at least remember, damn, he warned me. I was warned. And I ignored it, and this is what happens. I ignored the warning, and look at me now. And that's not to say that that's justice served. That isn't going to help the girl any. But we will have done what we could do. You know, we have to lead our horses to the water. If they refuse to drink, there's nothing we can do beyond that. But we have to at least lead our horses to water first. And we have to encourage them to drink, you know? And if they don't, then beyond that, you know, there's only so much we can impose on them. Yum Joy Style said, her sitting in front of him, burying her head on her phone with many empty seats, tells me she's lived here long enough to figure them out but didn't care. There's no way she was living here not seeing regular crimes against whites here and all over Europe. I have an old video of a little blonde Ukrainian girl who was a neo-Nazi that got arrested for crimes over there holding a swastika flag. They're not ignorant in Ukraine about them. Well, I mean, okay, but the bottom line is there are no blacks over there, okay? They don't have experience with blacks. It doesn't matter if she's been here a whopping 2 months or even a whole 2 years if she would have been here, but she wasn't here that long. They don't have experience with blacks, okay? All the Nazi yada yada, blah, blah, none of that means anything, okay? For them, Nazism is concerning themselves with making sure Jews don't take control of them, but apparently they don't realize, or maybe they do, and that's why they're rising back up. The Jews do have control of the Ukraine. So, yeah, I mean, there probably are Nazi organizations over there, and good for them. We need a huge Nazi organization here. How about that? And so that doesn't mean that she's trained in experience with blacks. It just means that a person who's in a Nazi organization understands that Jews are our arch enemy who are trying to destroy us. And so, you know, just because some girl over in the Ukraine is supposedly part of a Nazi group doesn't mean that they truly understand blacks. They are fed you know, they can, of course, they have access to all things we do on social media, but they don't know where to look. Like they don't know that we're over here like hotcakes doing videos about white people being eliminated by blacks. They just don't know that. They're from an all white world that doesn't even discuss things like that, including Nazi groups in an all white world. They're only concerned about removing the Jews from their government and country, and I totally agree with all of them who are that way. Regular crimes against whites here and all over Europe. Okay, that was the end of the other statement. And then he had another statement, and then he says, Yum Joy Style says, in Russia, they don't like them either. That's why they keep them out of there. They know exactly what Nogs are. Let's stop playing. Well, of course they understand that Nogs are violent or whatever because they've seen internet and whatever. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that they don't truly grasp the magnitude of those things. I mean, you're trying to impose knowledge on this 22-year-old girl from an all-white world as though she's supposed to be this 45-year-old, highly experienced about blacks, knows exactly what the hell's going on in the world bullshit. That's not the situation, okay? She's not a 40-something-year-old grown dude that's been around blacks plenty of times and understands that none of them should be trusted and all these things. She's had don't trust a book by its cover crammed down her throat her whole life in some other version of her language or whatever in her country. I mean, they truly are, they're trained. I mean, to think the girl got up in the morning and said, I'm going to hate white people and love blacks irrationally, and I'm just going to fucking sit close to the most dangerous ones I can find just to say, fuck you, white people. I mean, that's not their attitude, and that's not her attitude. That was not what was going on, and it shouldn't be treated as such to try to, lessen the rage against blacks for her death. It's just not going to happen on this channel. We're going to maintain our rage against blacks and Jews for her death. And we're not going to even see garbage like, oh, she might have been a mud shark, or, oh, she might have been a Black Lives Matter supporter. That's what people accused Shiloh of being a mud shark. And the same day they said, oh, she actually filmed that whole thing. It's all a hoax. And really her and the black dude that she supposedly is that's supposedly filming her's in on it together. And all that turned out to be bullshit. All right, so it doesn't matter if she's a Black Lives supporter. It doesn't matter if she's a coal burner. She's a white girl who's been duped into doing that shit by the Jews, and no white man stepped in and taught her better. And now she's dead. She's another white girl who've been murdered by blacks because the Jews allow it. And so the rage needs to stay on the blacks and the Jews, not her, not lefties, not mud sharks. And don't get me wrong. I'm very upset with the mud sharks. I think that, they've ruined themselves and it's a shame, but at the end of the day, we don't have a right over their body and over their soul. And so all we can do is warn them. And when we warn them, and then they still get killed from their own, failure to heed our warning, then we have at least warned our brethren. There's even a part of the Bible where it says, warn them of their wicked ways. And if you do, your blood is no longer on on your hands. You have washed their blood off your hands. But if you fail to warn your fellow brethren about their wicked ways, that's mud sharking, that's hanging out with blacks, that's listening to rap, that's watching niggers play sports ball, then their blood is on your hands. And so her blood is on our hands for not warning her as white people. Some white person should have taken her to the side and said, look, when you come up to a train car, it's got windows on it. Utilize them. Look through the windows, and if you see a bunch of nogs in the train car, pick another train car. And keep picking different train cars until you finally find one where you don't have a bunch of nogs in it. And if all of them have nogs in it, let the whole fucking train leave and wait on the next one. And if you got to wait 15 minutes or 30 minutes till the next one, so fucking be it. If you're going to get late to your job because of it, because you only left just in time to catch only this train, or you're going to be late, and if you're late again, you're going to get fired because this will be your third time you're late, so fucking be it. Would you rather be fired from your job and have to look for a new job and be alive? Or would you rather be stabbed in the neck and dead in 2 minutes after you get on the train car? Make your choice. Most people would prefer to stay alive and not be stabbed in the neck and die a minute and a half later. So they'll just simply watch that death car drive away and say to themselves, oh, well, if I'm fired when I get to work 30 minutes from now, late, I'll be alive. I'll live to get another job another day. You're on a way to a wedding. You're on a way to a funeral. You're on your way to school. So freaking be it. Watch the train drive away with the train full of niggers on it. And you stay alive. It's that simple. We didn't train her to know that. No white person crammed that information down her throat. No white person had an album of black on white murders on their phone to scroll one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another to show her how many millions of white girls are being slaughtered by random blacks that pop up in their environment around them. So her blood is on our hands, as well as the niggers, as well as the Jews. What else we got here? Yum Joy Style is mentioning the Russian girl I spoke about. Yeah, but that's irrelevant to this girl that we're talking about tonight. And then he says, so her Nazi Ukrainian group didn't tell her about niggers, the J biological weapons? No, they really don't, honestly. When you live in an all-white world, you cannot conceive. Maybe you weren't alive in the 80s, okay? But in the 1980s, we had white men all over America warning white people about the incoming onslaught by overwhelming numbers of blacks being reproduced like hotcakes. Our men back then knew that all those black babies that the government was stealing money from us and paying the blacks to start having and multiplying like hotcakes on us were all in 20 years going to be grown violent psychos capable of irreparable harm. And all of those men back then were called every name in the book. They were shamed into oblivion. They were taken to court for hate speech. All these young folks that think hate speech is a new concept, a new thing that just came out and started being used against white people. No. You can look it up. Little Rock, Arkansas. It was national news. They shamed these neo-Nazi, as they called them, church pastors, white supremacist church pastors, KKK church pastors. They called them every demonizing name they possibly could. They had all the white people in the country feeling so ashamed of ourselves. There weren't even any fucking blacks here. And that's why they were shamed into oblivion, because there were no fucking blacks here. Everybody looked around and go, what the fuck are these guys talking about? We live in an all-white country. Everywhere we go is white people. White people. We go to the store, Piggly Wiggly, it's nothing but white people. We go to The mall is nothing but white people working in every facility. We go, and everybody walking around the mall is white. We go to the skating rink, everyone there is white. We go to the drive-in theater, everyone there is white. We fly on airplanes to go somewhere, everyone on the plane is white. We go to the airport before we get on the plane, everyone at the airport's white. Everyone working at the airport's white. Everyone at my school is white. All the teachers and staff are white at my school. What are these guys talking about? Blacks are going to take us over and start slaughtering our people by the gajillions. And the Jews are going to allow them to do it. What are these guys talking about? Where? What blacks? And that's the same mentality. Similar mentality. At the subconscious level that all white people have who live in all white states or all white countries. They simply do not comprehend. Yes, they can watch social media and they can watch the news and see how violent blacks are acting in some Burger King or at Disney World. But they don't truly grasp it. They think, just like many white people do when they see violence being inflicted on white people, they think, that's just an awful situation that happened. They just think it's a coincidence. They just think it's, and it doesn't matter. Like, this girl wasn't even from a neo-Nazi family. We're going off hypothetical nonsense right now, but I'm just entertaining your hypothetical thing as if it was true. And even if it was true, even if this hypothetical nonsense of her being with neo-Nazi family members and blah, 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 all that horse shit was true, it still doesn't freaking matter. At some point, we have to step in and say, hey, no more of you dipshits teaching our little white girls how to think. No more of you assholes telling our white girls that white people suck. No more of you assholes telling our little white girls that they ought to be with blacks. No more of these commercials on TV. Why? Because you're not going to turn a television on with your little white girls. That's how you keep them from seeing the TV. And you don't give them an internet on their phone. And you don't give them social media on their phone. And you don't send them to public school. And you don't send them to any private school that allows blacks in it or that happens to have blacks in it. You either homeschool them, you put them in a Mormon school or some other type of all-white church-type school that blacks just aren't in. You know, blacks aren't typically in Lutheran schools or Lutheran churches. I think they have schools. Unfortunately, Seventh-day Adventists, the Jews have definitely flooded that with blacks. There are even entire swaths of black churches that are all black churches, call themselves Seventh-day Adventist churches. So, you know, they're trashed when it comes to, you know, multi-culti hellhole. But there are other white churches that still offer Christian school, and their entire church congregation are white. So all the children that your kid would go to school with are white. And so those do exist still. They're rare and few and far between here and there, but they do exist in every town and every city. So you just have to look for them. And really, the main one would just be homeschool. You homeschool your kids so that they're not around the danger of any non-whites, be it a staff member of the school that's black or a violent nog that just is jealous, envious of your son because the pretty white girl in the class that likes your son in second grade, is always smiling at him, and now they're talking to each other and passing notes back and forth or texting or whatever. Now you got the random nog in the class jealous, so he attacks your son. So no, you shouldn't have your kids in school with blacks. Your daughters should never even have to go within 1,000 feet of any blacks, ever. Anywhere you know blacks are going to be, you shouldn't be taking your family. And you're a fool if you do. Avoid the groid means your whole family, not just you. You have to teach your entire family. You have to teach all your loved ones. And by loved ones, after I had just said your entire family, I mean even your close friends that you care about dearly. It has to be done that way. You can't just tell some people you care about and not tell others. You have to warn them all. Unless there are certain people that you declare you care about that you don't care if they get slaughtered on the train car. Like, oh, I care about Aunt Jill, but, you know, I'm not going to say anything to her about watching out for blacks because, you know, I don't want to make it weird or anything. Also, Aunt Jill may be the next one that has this terrified look on her face after she's just been stabbed. What about that white lady and the little white daughter that were at the grocery store? And they didn't notice this 300-pound fat Jabba the Hutt, bald-headed, typical black nog freaking female boon with a giant knife in her hand, following them out of the store all the way to the freaking vehicle halfway down the parking lot. This fat boon was right behind them the whole time with a 18-inch knife sticking out of her hand. And they didn't even notice. Were they Black Lives Matter freaking, oh, I don't care that this nog's walking right behind me and my daughter with a giant knife because I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter and a mud shark. No, it was none of that. It was that she was a white lady who was focused on what white ladies should be focused on. She should have been able to just focus on getting her groceries, making sure she didn't lose sight of of her little girl she had with her. Make sure she didn't let her fall out of the basket and harm herself or any of that. And then she should have been able to just focus on getting her and her child to cross the parking lot without anybody hitting them with their car. And then she should have been able to just focus on getting the groceries loaded while she has the kid secured either safely in the car or some way where nobody can get to her without her being able to intervene. And she should have been able to just worry about driving out of there after having the kid seat belted properly in the car seat and slowly get out of the parking lot without hitting anyone. And in a serious country, in a proper white Christian fascist country, there would be no non-whites in our country. And those exact things that she was focused on that kept her from ever having an additional thing to worry about, knowing that she needed to worry about, which was an envious nog walking right behind her. In a serious country, in a real proper white Christian fascist country like America was created to be, there would have been no non-whites here for her to have ever had that additional concern. She wouldn't need to have her head on a swivel. She wouldn't have needed to stay strapped. She wouldn't have needed to not have earbuds in her ears. She could have just focused on all the things I listed. Making sure she didn't lose the baby. Making sure she didn't drop the baby. Make sure she gets all the food she needs for the house. Make sure she didn't forget anything she wanted to buy. Make sure she gets through the parking lot back to the car without getting hit by anyone in the car. Make sure she gets the groceries loaded without the kid being rolling away in the cart and being harmed or, whatever. Making sure she gets out of the parking lot safely and gets home safely with the kid in the car. Those are the things she should have been able to worry about. And those things only. But because we're not a serious country, because we've cucked our country away, because we've let the Jews create anti-fascism to combat our white Christian fascist nations, and ruin them and decimate them and even dupe us into thinking that fascism is bad and calling our own opponents fascists as though being a fascist means baddie. We've been duped out of our white Christian fascism. And now, because we have these exact scenarios happen, our white women are being slaughtered. That poor white lady and her poor little white daughter had no idea that that worthless boon with the giant knife was walking right behind them, ready to start sticking them in the face and in the neck. The white mother with the little white toddler boy wouldn't have been walking past blacks in the Mall of America. She would have saw the giant black coming her way, and she would have turned and went another way, dipped into a store, or said to herself, there's blacks here, I should leave. Why did I even come here? Erase the Bagel stopped by. Thank you, sir, for stopping by. God bless you. And I'm sorry I had not got to any of your comments until now. My apologies for your wait. And originally he asked, did you talk about Charlie Kirk? But I did talk about him. And I think you may have been here for that the second time around. And he said, it's fake. Look at her throat. There's nothing on her throat. Besides, if you get fatally stabbed in the throat, you fall down immediately. You don't look up at the killer and start crying. Well, unfortunately, I have to totally disagree with you 100%. Blacks do murder white girls. There is no need to stage fake crimes like this. It goes completely against the narrative the Jews want pushed worldwide. The media purposely ignored it for days until we kept forcing the issue online. I didn't, but others were forcing the issue on social media, online, and everything, till they finally had to start, going along and with the news and catching up with the online community. She's wearing a black shirt. The blood is going down her black shirt. She died right there in the thing. Her obituary will be happening here in a day or two. People will be able to go and visit her dead body at her funeral. Now, the Charlie Kirk one may very well be a hoax. But when white people are murdered by blacks, it is never a staged hoax. You can set your watch to that. There is never a need for fabricating fake events of blacks murdering white people. It happens so frequently and every day. This stabbing here of this white girl is one of just perhaps 5 or 6 or 10 white girls who were stabbed to death in practically the same fashion on the same exact day that she was stabbed to death. Every single day, we have white girls and white women murdered by blacks. And so there is no need whatsoever, ever, to fabricate any sort of psyop or false flag of a black murdering an innocent white person. It's just not a thing. It'll never need to be a thing. And so that's why it never would be a thing, because it's always a natural, normal phenomenon when blacks live in your world. It wasn't a hoax in the 80s. It wasn't a staged event in the 70s. It wasn't staged hoaxes in the 90s. When blacks murder white people, it's as real as it gets. And I challenge you to just go to any hood. If it's such a hoax, save up your money and buy a house in the black neighborhood. and live there the rest of your life knowing that blacks just don't murder white people and that it's all staged hoax anytime you see something like that. Buy into the Jewish bullshit that blacks are just as normal as can be and move yourself into the hood, and you will find out within, who knows, a week, a month. She was stabbed with a pocket knife, and that's why it cut his hand too, because he's a retarded, low IQ, barely over a retarded level, IQ of perhaps 61 or 63 or so. He didn't realize that when you take a small folding pocket knife and you try to stab someone with it, it will fold back up if you don't hit your target with a certain angle that would encourage the blade to stay in the open position. So since he was a dumb piece of worthless shit, oxygen waster, when he stabbed her with the foldable pocket knife, it folded back up on him a little bit and cut his hand. And so thankfully he did cut himself a little bit, but the point is, a pocket knife doesn't make this big, giant, 16-inch long cutter neck with a sword, giant dagger-sized knife. It was a little 3-inch pocket knife, you know. But the bottom line is, when you were stabbed in the neck, even with a small knife, even with a screwdriver, which doesn't even have the width of a knife by any stretch of the imagination, you could be stabbed with an ice pick, which is basically almost a needle. It's so small. When you're stabbed with certain objects that are, sharp, like a knife or any of those things, it doesn't have to be very long. Her whole neck is only 7 inches around. A 3-inch little puny foldable Swiss Army knife, a miniature one, would kill her no problem. First stick. The dude rears back. He's a 6-foot-something black. Rears back and full steams it into her neck. She's going to die from it. And then she turns and looks at him, and he sticks her again. She's going to die from it. It's not a staged hoax. And it's honestly, I don't have a good word right off the top of my head that I could use for it, but it's very baby truther-ish to ever see such a blatant attack by blacks against a white girl, which is so uber common, and immediately default to, it's staged, it's a hoax. No. Staged events and hoaxes are very easily detectable. Blacks murdering white people is never, ever, ever. There is never a time where the Jews are like, oh man, we sure could use a black murdering a white person on camera today. That is the polar opposite of the narrative they want spread around. They look at all the money and all the effort they spend to show blacks as angels, perfect little angels. They're just like white people. Look at them in the car commercial, taking their kids out taking their mongrel kids and their blonde white wife out for a day at the beach. Oh, look at him sitting on his laptop, freaking trading stocks. That's the way they want blacks portrayed. They don't want blacks portrayed stabbing an innocent white girl to death. That's the polar opposite. That made all the freaking synagogues cringe when that started becoming pushed on the online. When they started seeing all of us online, like, demanding that it be spoke about and pushed out on the news and everything else, they were pissed. They didn't want to have to put that shit on the news. That totally debunks all of their fucking, the perfect little angels, Now, what could be a staged event could be Charlie Kirk's assassination. That could be a hoax. And it's very easy to know why. He's pro-Trump. Trump did his a hoax. He did a hoax where he was supposedly shot in the ear. That was definitely a hoax. Okay, he was not shot in the freaking ear. His ear would have been obliterated by a 223 or a 556, either of which they have claimed, both different sources claim as 556, other sources claimed as a 223. Either one of those that hit his ear would have turned the entire ear to vapor. There would have been no ear on Trump's left side of his head ever again. He would have just had a smooth side of his head and a hole where his ear hole is, and that would be it. There would be no piercing through the ear, and then, oh, you just stitch it up, and, well, yeah, it's fucking all back to normal. Just a few days later. No. It would have blown his entire ear. It would have turned it all you have to do is get on here on YouTube and type in ballistics gel or whatever. Or no, there's one called a pig's ear. 223 shooting a pig's ear, right? A pig's ear is much tougher than a human's ear. And watch what it does when a 223 shoots through a pig's ear. It blows the entire thing to smithereens. And that's exactly what would happen to the side of you. That was exactly what would happen to any human being's ear if they get shot with a 223 or 556. There's no piercing your ear with that. So since Trump's was a hoax and Charlie's pro-Trump and both of them are pro-Jews first, above and beyond all Americans, we have like a 95% chance, I would say, that Charlie Kirk's is also a hoax. The only reason why it may not be a hoax this time around is if he actually is dead and they really don't bring him back out to the public ever again. And even then, it could be a hoax because they could just simply pack him and all his family up, move them to some Eastern European country, and recharacter him as some totally different person, and that would be it. He about his life there, and no one in America would ever see or hear from him ever again, and that would be that. Everyone would think he died for real. In fact, chances are he would probably move to freaking Israel. But the problem is a lot of Americans go to Israel because they're all cucked about the Jews and everything. So, surely somebody would see him if he's in Israel. So he'd probably have to go to Eastern Europe where they don't, where Americans really aren't there in massive numbers all the time, or somebody could recognize him. And then they probably have to do, he'll probably have to wear a mask when he goes out and shit if he's still alive. I mean, after all, Jeffrey Epstein isn't dead. He was never in prison to be assassinated in prison. The minute he got any kind of heat his way, our own government loaded him up on a freaking private jet and flew his ass to Tel Aviv, where he's safe from extradition to any country. So, what do we got going on here? Let's see. Yumjoy still disagrees. And I guess we'll just have to call it a draw. But I definitely don't agree with your position at all. Europeans are definitely cucked about blacks, but we're not talking about typical Europeans. We're talking about Russians, Ukrainians. They are still cucked about blacks, but they're not the way you're talking about them. But you're saying that they know all about the blacks and know to avoid the groid and all that. They honestly don't. They know it as a novelty idea. Novelty is not the right word, but as a They just look at blacks as an oddity. They don't know. Just like we didn't know about them in the 80s, they're just a weird oddity to us. And that's what they were. That's what they are to them still, because they just don't have experience with them. And remember, and this is something I meant to get into tonight, and I'm glad I finally am now. It finally has triggered in my mind based on what you and I are just discussing here. Is the not all blacks, the not all, not all, not all, not all Jews, not all blacks. That cuckery has to stop. And I've already mentioned in other streams, when you see people put the stupid meme, it's not all of them, but it's always them. I've told y'all in other streams that I've been correcting people, and I've been asking y'all to do the same, that anytime you see a cuck who puts that, just reply, it's all of them. And the reason why is because white people have no way to know whether one black or another is going to freaking attack. Okay, yes, in this case, he's wearing a hoodie, he's got spider hair. Yes, that's a great indicator. They're letting you know by physical dress that they're a demon. But even a black in a suit and tie has flipped out on white people before. Is it less likely? Perhaps. But like Flecka's Talks today, on their video today, they showed a variety of different blacks. And they said, if you see a black dressed like this, military uniform or whatever, he's a yes or no sir guy, blah, blah, blah. He's probably an okay one to be around. Well, guess what? We just had two different blacks on military bases in their military uniforms murder a female who was also in the military on the military base. So that don't do us any good. What if you're wrong? Remember what Nick Fuentes said yesterday. He said, I don't want to roll the dice. I could be wrong. What if I'm wrong? What if she got on that train car and sat in front of that black, but the black was wearing a military uniform? According to Flecka's today, that's probably okay to sit in front of. But is it really, after we just have recently heard about two stories where these two different full army blacks on the army base, they didn't even do it off the base, they did it on the base. One of them murdered the girl and then put her body in the dumpster. I mean, at that point, they got to know and expect that they're going to get caught. Did it anyway. And so my point of saying that and the subject matter I was trying to get into here is white people cannot be expected to ever be able to discern whether one black or another is going to be a deadly threat to us. All right? Remember the poll that Scott Adams became famous for referring to. Okay? Blacks were polled, and over half of them said it's not okay for white people to exist. And really, if all the blacks had been truly honest in the survey, it would have been like 99% of blacks are not okay with white people existing. And because of that, that means only 1% of blacks that we ever encounter, or less, are not inclined to want to murder us just because we're a white person standing there in their presence. And because of that, we can't expect any white person, be it a white girl who's cucked into the leftism or a based white girl who's also just as cucked about blacks, by the way. Country girls are just as cucked about non-whites as any others are. They twerk, they listen to rap. So they watch nigger ball. And so you know, there is no way for white people to look at each black everywhere they freaking go and correctly determine every single time without ever getting it wrong. Win the lottery, win the scratch off ticket, win the pull down on the freaking slot machine, every single pull, every single scratch off, every single Powerball. They nail it every time. You're expecting white people. I'm not saying you. I'm saying the idea of allowing blacks to live around us, knowing that 99% of them truly, 99%, it's truly that it's true that it's 99%. It's not really only barely half of them. It's 99% of blacks hate white people and want us dead and would happily be the one to kill us themselves if they think they can get away with it. And knowing that, to expect white people to nail it every day, everywhere they go, perfectly. Oh, babe, I made it all the way through the day. Not a single black killed me. I was around like 7 or 8 that I picked to be around. And it just so happened I nailed it all 7 times. All 7 of them just so happened they didn't try to kill me. That's what we're expecting white people to be able to do every day of their lives while we live around these blacks. That's not fair to white people. That's not fair to white children. And it's especially not fair to them when we've been allowing people who hate us to teach our kids at our schools that we pay for that our own race are scum and that they should bow to every black they ever meet and give all their money to Jews. And we're expecting them to grow up to be 22-year-old girls that know better. I mean, come on. After all their life of training and conditioning them to believe an exact specific way, we're expecting them to just know instinctively to abandon all of that and think the exact opposite. It's just not how going to work that way. You know what I mean? Stand by. I got to do a quick bio break. I apologize. Give me just a minute. All right, we are back in action. Just washing up. while I'm washing up, I do have the notes, or not the notes, the comments here visible. I can barely see them from where I'm standing, but let me see what I can read here from there. Erase the bagels. I'm sorry I didn't get to your 2 comments that you retracted. My apologies for taking too long. Yumjoy Style said, I believe Trump getting nicked in his ear was real before I believe this Ukrainian girl wasn't aware of nog behavior in America. Touche. For the sake and the spirit of debate, I'll give you that one. That perhaps she did know or has been shown through social media. Perhaps she has seen nog behavior on social media. But again, let me just reposition one more time about that. That I'm not saying it doesn't matter fully, all right? I realize that I said earlier that it doesn't matter, period, dot. And I still honestly stand by that position. But let me just give the slight different approach about it. Our sports cucks, for example, all right? Sports cucks spend all of their time as a white man worrying about Shaquem LaQuille's freaking running or rushing yards, or how many touchdowns he's got this season, and how many DeQuan's got 3-pointers this season, or whether or not his group of blacks are going to go to the playoffs. And if one of those white men were to go to a ball game and, they end up backstage after the game, I mean, that's a big deal for sports cucks to be able to go to the locker room, and all those things. And suppose some blacks or whoever attacked and killed him while he was in there, right? Now, to a sports cuck, being able to go into the locker room while all of his favorite nogs are in there would be a high honor, something to be able to tell your kids about, a sports cuck even thinks, like some kind of legacy moment. And if he were to be killed in the locker room by, 1 or 2 random nogs that play on the certain ball team or whatever that he liked, imagine, a bunch of white people saying, oh, he knew better than to go in the locker room. He knew better than to do that. Well, that wouldn't make any sense to most white people, even the pro-white people, because they'd be like, what are you talking about? A locker room's supposed to be like, they're on a pro ball team. I mean, they've got a lot to lose if they were to do something stupid like that. These 2 guys that killed him, now they're going to lose their pro athlete money, and now they're going to go to prison and all this stuff. Why would they do such a thing? But we already see that blacks will throw away everything they've got going for them on just a random moment of acting violent. You know what I mean? Just a random opportunity that means nothing in the grand scheme of things. And they'll throw their entire life away, all the awesome career and big money and fame and everything they've got. They'll throw it all away in just the heat of a moment thing. Just because some white dude looked at him the wrong way or said the wrong thing or whatever. And so if a white guy were to be in a locker room with his favorite nogs that he calls his team, and 2 of them decide to jump him and kill him, There would be no pro-white people saying, oh, that's what he gets. He should have known better than to go in there and be surrounded by all them blacks in that locker room. But they're on a professional team. There's supposed to be cameras down there, news reporters. Another white person or two might be down there. Why would he think that it's unsafe for him to go into that environment surrounded by all those blacks when it's seemingly such an okay environment for him to do so? And after all, he spends all his time idolizing these blacks. He spends all of his time looking up to how high the one can jump or how awesome that one play was or how amazing that one nog was that ran the ball all the way back to the other end of the field for a touchdown. So why would he ever expect that he's putting himself in danger to go to the locker room of all places? The place that everybody wishes they could go. Who's a sports cuck? For him, he would be going to the place of the most high honor he could go to. Only to be killed in there. But would anybody be shaming him for not knowing better? He should have known better with social media and everything else. No. Would it be rightful if people did? Yeah, kinda, if we're going off of your theme. Because after all, social media is available to him just like it is available to Iryna, or was to Iryna, right? So, in a way, yeah, we could say, yeah, it's his fault. He should have known better. And you'd be correct. As a white man, it is his fault. As a white man, we're supposed to have more sense than a lady. We're supposed to have less empathy for the non-whites, and we're supposed to stay on guard from them, protect our people from them, protect our families from them. But instead, as a white man, they were dumb enough to be worshiping them, idolizing them, focused on all useless stats of their ball-chasing sport they're involved in. But here we are expecting to hold this 22-year-old brainwashed girl to a standard even higher than his. We've trained her that it's okay. We've got security cameras on every car. That's what she was told. That's what she saw when she got on there. She's like, sure enough, I was told they have cameras on every train car to keep crime down. And no one's ever grabbed her by the shoulder and said, lady, blacks don't give two fucks about a camera. They will literally do anything in front of any camera to anyone. They don't give a shit about cameras. No one ever told her that. No white man ever grabbed her by the shoulders and said, ma'am, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about because you've been brainwashed about dumb shit. Look here. And scroll through their phone. This one here was murdered by a black guy. This one here was murdered by a black guy. All in front of cameras, by the way. We got footage of every one of these because they all knew a camera was there and they did it anyway. So in the same spirit of that sports cuck guy going to a locker room full of nogs, whom are his favorite team, by the way, and being killed by a couple of them there, and no one would shame him saying he should know better than to go around all them nogs like that, because nobody would think that he should be in danger in a locker room where there's cameras for the news and interviewers for the news, and the owner of the team may be down there or the coach may be down there. On this train car, she could have had a white person or two. You know, a few other blacks other than the one that killed her. And it's the same scenario. In her mind, she's expecting it to be safe. and okay to do. And after all, there's a camera in every car now. And she sees it. She gets in the train car for the first time. She's like, wow, sure enough, there's a camera right there. Yeah, every car's got a camera in it. That's good. That'll keep crime down. And all the while, she don't realize that that camera means nothing to any black. Blacks think in the moment, like Anthony Cumia says. They can only think 10 seconds in advance. That's it. And I declare it's not even that. I think they live exactly in the moment, in that second. We already had some African female lately who got online and admitted that there is no such thing as future in an African's mind. They haven't lived it yet, so it doesn't exist. And that's why they don't prepare for the future. They don't plan for the future, because to them, the future doesn't exist. It hasn't happened yet, so it doesn't exist. They only live in the exact moment they're in right then. So when they're stalling, like Anthony points out, trying to prove his 10-second theory, he points out, look, they're always trying to stall getting in the police car. They know that once they're in the police car, it's done. It's a done deal once the door closes. So they fight and argue and complain, trying to keep from getting in the police car. Then they finally get in the police car, but they keep their foot where the door can't close. And the longer they can keep that door open, that's another however long they get to keep from before they are finally done losing the battle. And he thinks that they're thinking 10 seconds in advance. 10 seconds into the future, I should say. But they're not, because they don't even think the future exists until it happens. So there is no future. There's only right now, and that's it. And so right along with his evidence he's showing, trying to prove the 10-second theory, it really just proves the in-the-moment theory. Because if they could think 10 seconds in the future, they would know at some point in that before that last 10 seconds, that 10 seconds is going to end, and then the whole shebang's going to be over with, and they would just move their foot inside and give up and let the cop shut the door. Instead, they fight all the way to the door is forced closed, because they live in the exact moment. And so now you know when it comes to that. But, comparing this girl, expecting this girl to understand the true gravity of the true seriousness of how dangerous blacks are, I don't think it should have been. I don't think we should put that much weight on her. Let's see here. Yum Joy Style said, oh, no, I'm sorry, Erase the Bagels, said, I saw the weird cohort wrangler with the hat after the Charlie shooting. You taught me that. Hey, God bless you for remembering that, and I have not seen the cohort wrangler in that event, so I will definitely look for that. I will check that out later and see if I can find him. And good eye on you catching that. Excellent work on your part, Erase the Bagels. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. I will look into that. Yum Joy Style said, not buying a 22-year-old girl on social media in 2025 doesn't know their behavior. Yeah, we addressed that. And then he said, I don't trust a white man that enjoys a nog running back and forth with a ball and finds that entertaining. Put another man's name on your back. Yeah, the whole thing of it is just absolute cuckery. And I'm not down with any of it. Evan Smith is here. Hello. He said, hey, I'm back. Well, welcome back. God bless you, and thank you for stopping by again. He said, off topic but important. Jack of the Jack Streams appears to have his account taken down. Oh, no, really? Oh, shit. I hope not. Jack is one of my absolute faves. I have had him visit our streams for years now. He's been visiting our streams, and somehow, I don't know how, but I never clicked on his name until several months back or whatever it was. When I was on one of my streams, I said, all of you tell me who have a channel who post pro-white stuff, and I will sub to you right away. And I don't think Jack himself told me. He may not have even been on the stream that night, but someone else, I think, is who chimed in and said that he does. So I went and subbed to his channel, and then wouldn't you know it, like the next day he did a Jack stream, and I listened to it, and I was blown away. I was so impressed with his absolute baseness. I have only one thing I vary slightly from him on, which was that he thinks that we, that it's feasible that we give blacks a certain part of America so they can live in it. And I disagree with that. I think they need to be removed from the continent of North America. And I think that's the only answer for blacks, is that they have to all be removed and put back in the part of the world where they are supposed to be. Not only just for our sake, which is all I really care about at all, but also it will be for their sake in the end. It will be for their benefit too. It will eliminate over one or two or three generations. It will eliminate all of their hatred for white people. It'll dissolve all of their envy of white people, because they won't have white people around them anymore to compare themselves to be envious of, to be jealous of their appearance and all these things, and or be upset about their appearance versus ours and all those things. And all together in general, it will just be a better life quality for them and a hugely better quality of life for us. And so that's the only thing that I vary from Jack on, is that I don't think we should keep any place in America for blacks or any other non-whites. It's not just blacks. All non-whites have to be removed from the continent, and we have to start with a clean slate. All white people, all afresh, and I don't. It's not like I insist on that it has to be that way because A, it's my personal preference, or B, because I relish in the idea of forcing every non-white out of our country. That's just the bottom line. They all have to be removed. Every group of non-whites that you think are behaving legitimately in our country end up years later, months later from now, will end up one at a time being discovered that they had an entire multi-million-dollar fraud ring happening, either through food stamp fraud or fake check fraud or car theft fraud. We just found out about a $200 million supercar thefts and transport smuggling scheme to Saudi Arabia, and it consisted of a shit ton of Saudi Arabians and several blacks that were stealing the cars for them. And we just found a whole mess of Mexicans that were doing a food stamp fraud thing, and they stole like $2 million. I think it was $2 million worth of food and all this crap. $2 million worth of food, I guess it was. There are no good groups of non-whites. They are all here at white people's expense, for one. And for two, and that alone, by the way, just the fact that non-whites come, that every non-white that is on our soil is here at white people's expense, that by itself negates the right of any non-white to ever have a right to be here. You know what I mean? Or any non-white should ever be allowed here. Also, let me remind everyone that because our God says we're not allowed to have any of them living among us, that alone by itself, without any other reason necessary. I've said this many times before on many other streams. It wouldn't matter that if white people benefited from non-whites living in our country? What if blacks being in our country made white people richer, made our women give us more white babies, seemingly made everything better about America if we had non-whites here living among us? Our God has already told us no. So it doesn't matter even if we benefited greatly even from non-whites being in our country, from any non-whites, whether it's blacks, Asians, both, whatever. If we benefited greatly from them being in our country, our God still already told us no. So we don't need any other reason. We don't need pieces of evidence. We don't need proof. We don't need anything at all. Our God has already told us no. And that right there alone is all we're supposed to go by. So it's automatically by default a no on non-whites supposed to be living in our countries at all. And then when you add up all the proof, those are just confirmations of what God's wisdom has already demanded of us. So it's not like they're new revelations each time. It's not like we need to build up a bunch of evidence to finally prove that we're right. We're already right if we're following what God said, have none of them here. And so that means they all have to go because our God said they're not supposed to live among us. That means none of them. That doesn't mean we cherry pick for the next 10,000 years trying to figure out which one and da-da-da. Now, granted, we only have 200 years to go, but I just mean in the next 200 years, we're going to waste it trying to go sift through millions and millions and 240 million non-whites and figure out who's cool and who ain't. No. They all have to go. It's no different than, like I've mentioned before on other streams, about theme parks. When a theme park wants to transition from a regular daily operations to a private event where some company like 3M decides to give, say, Six Flags $2 million to rent out the park for the evening for a company party. And it's called a buyout, a park buyout. And let's say they want to do a park buyout for the evening. Well, Six Flags would normally be open till, say, 9 or 10 o'clock at night. But the event is going to start at 6 p.m. and go till midnight. So what do they do that day? They have to cut the day short, and when they do, and they sweep what they do is they sweep the park. That's what it's called, sweeping the park. And they form a wall of employees, and they start at one spot, and they work their way toward the exit. And everyone they see along the way has to go. They check the bathrooms along the way, they check behind buildings, and as they sweep across the park toward the exit, every man, woman, and child they see has to go. We're sorry, it's time for everybody to close up for the day. Oh, I thought y'all are staying open till 10. No, we normally do. We got a park buyout tonight, so everybody's got to leave. Oh, we have tickets to that. We're part of the park buyout. We are here early, though, enjoying the park before the park buyout started. Okay, well, you're still going to have to leave, and you're going to have to re-enter with your park buyout ticket. And so even the people who are okay to be there after the sweep still have to be kicked out with the full sweep, and then they have to re-enter with their new credentials for the new event. And so that alone proves that that's the only efficient way to do things. Everyone must go. Everyone must go. And once they're all gone, then we can decide who was cool and who wasn't. We could spend the next 200 years deciding who we want to let back in. And most of them won't even live long enough to ever come back in, which is fine with us. So rather than spend the next 200 years trying to figure out as they die off who was cool living here and who needs to get kicked out, that's stupid. They all need to go, and immediately we'll be back to our white utopia. Instant reset overnight. As soon as the last one leaves on the last barge, we will be back in white utopia. We'll be able to reopen our shopping malls. We'll be able to reopen our skating rinks. We'll be able to open drive-in theaters again. We'll be able to have packages left on our doorstep all day till we get home from work. Again, we used to do mail order in the 80s. We're going to go back to being able to leave our cars unlocked, our houses unlocked. We're going to be back to being able to leave things, valuables, possessions in our cars, and no one will touch them. We'll be able to turn Compton into a golf course. Imagine, instead of the word Compton, nowadays people think blacks, crime, danger, destruction, ruin, filthiness, gross, nasty area. But in the future, when people hear Compton, they think beautiful, exquisite golf course, one of the toughest in California to play. All of our beaches will be glorious and clean and packed full of white people again. It'll look like Miami Vice all over again. It'll look like Baywatch all over again. Our cruise ships will be usable again. Flying will become classy again. White people will start dressing better again. As our confidence in our people starts increasing more and more slowly, day by day, month by month, year by year. Eventually, our people will always dress nice again, everywhere they go, anytime they leave the house. All of our children will be able to attend regular public school without a care in the world again. White people will be able to live in cities again, which I have no idea why any white people enjoy that, but apparently a lot of white people like to live crammed in close quarters with other people. I don't understand it, but for those who enjoy that type of communal living, they will be able to do so again without crime and fear of attacks on themselves all the time, without having to keep their head on a swivel, without having to stay strapped. Criminals will do their time. Our jails will be empty. We'll have so much open jail space that we'll have enough jail space for the next 200 years till Christ arrives. Just off what we've already built and has been emptied once we remove all the blacks. Everything will be restored. And it all begins the instant we sweep the entire continent of non-whites. And by the entire continent, I really mean America and Canada. And really, it would be enough if we would at least just remove them all from America. Even if we had to drive them into Canada and Mexico, a sweep is a sweep. As long as we make it across our country, we're good to go. You know what I mean? We've got them out of our country. Even if some of them evaded into Canada and some evaded into Mexico, so be it. They won't be allowed back in the country, so it won't matter. And we will no longer tolerate non-whites standing on our border, climbing up on top of our border wall and hanging out on top of it, trying to saw a hole or grind holes through it right in front of us. Anyone who is caught penetrating our border will be executed on sight, first sight, by any American. Doesn't have to be a Border Patrol agent, doesn't have to be a police officer, by any American who happens to see a non-white on our soil. Instant death on first sight. Full mag dump. You see brown, you put it down. And that will be the way our country is maintained. That'll be, from then on, that'll be the time where our women are free to roam again anywhere they want, go wherever they please, without a care in the world, just like our girls used to be able to do. Let's see here. But to get back to Jack, let's get back to Evan's comment here about Jack. Truly horrible news if that's the case. I really hope he hasn't, and I'll have to check here in a few and see if I can find his channel too. But I mean, if you say it's gone, it might be gone. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to keep a lookout on my streams and on other pro-white streams where he comments. And we'll have to be on the lookout for him saying in the comments, hey, it's me, it's Jack. I started a new channel. Here's its name. So that we can all sub to him and reconnect with him. And Jack, if you listen in and your channel has been gotten, my condolences, brother. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm deeply, deeply sorry to hear that. I know it's aggravating as hell. I've been there, brother, multiple times now, and I've had to start over like 6 times now. So I absolutely feel your pain and your frustration if you're going through that right now, if your channel truly was purged. And Godspeed to you and God bless you. And I hope that you immediately create the emails you need to create. And if it's demanding your phone number like it did me, go buy you a burner phone. And then that way you've got a fresh phone number to give to it for a cell phone for it to connect to, because it'll want to send you a code, and then you put the code in and blah, blah. So it'll keep them from rejecting your new channel based on seeing your old phone number that it already knows probably. You know, because as soon as it recognizes any of your old data, if you try to use an original not password, but an original email that you had on that channel, be it the primary or secondary, or if you try to have a code sent to that same phone number that used to be associated with the channel they deleted, they will immediately detect that you're trying to build a new channel and that it's you. And they will, even if they allow you to finish creating the profile, they'll suspend you from being able to do anything to it. And that's what they did with mine when I tried to do a second one, a backup one, and I tried to use one thing the same that was connected to my or actually no, this last time it was because it wanted my phone number, and I was like, I'm not giving you my phone number. So, and it wouldn't let me go any further without you giving them that. So I'm like, all right, well, so I was forced to go get a burner phone. But a time before they started asking about phone numbers, they wanted an email, and then they want a second email that's different. And I didn't have a second one that wasn't associated with one of my old channels, so I had to create another pair. And that way I would have, 2 brand new emails and a brand new phone number for it to, send me the 2-step and all that. And so hopefully you will go through the effort to do all those things so that you can continue being heard. I absolutely love your streams, Jack. We all love you that who know about you and who have listened to your streams. And I look forward to hearing another one of your streams. I just tuned into one the other night, and I was late to the party. It was right before you were ending, and I got there and I managed to say a couple things, said hello and stuff, and then about that time you were wrapping up that night. But very very pleased to been able to finally see some of your streams. Um, if your channel got terminated, that really sucks because now all those streams are gone. And I wanted to go back. I wanted to do a reverse marathon on yours and in time, and start with one of the more recent ones, the most recent one that I haven't seen before I discovered your channel, and then work my way backwards by watching them all. But if you could also start a Rumble channel and post all those streams on there so I can, not just so I can, but so everybody can listen to your rants that you've already done because they're all great. They're excellent. I mean, I give them an A plus, and I find myself saying, "Preach it, brother." Yes, the whole time you're talking, and ultra based, y'all. If you haven't subscribed to Doc Holiday's channel, it's called Doc Holiday Jack, but really, everybody knows him that his name's Jack. If his channel still exists, definitely sub to him. I thought I promoted Jack's channel not that long ago on a community post, but perhaps I was meaning to and never got around to it. I hope I did promote it, but there's a slight chance that I'm just thinking that I went through with it and didn't actually do it and got distracted that day or whatever and didn't actually do it. Either case, though, hopefully he is. Hopefully his channel is alive and well. If it's not, that's horrible, sad news. But thank you, Evan, for letting me know about that. I will look into that also when the stream ends. Yumjoy style said, I would ask him, why do you idolize a monkey that jumps high just because he runs fast? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what they do. I'll give you a good example. I was talking with a coworker one day who I've known for a long time. How could I say? We know a lot about each other. We know each other's, family members. I've known him for so long that I know him very personally on a personal level. I know his family, I know his parents, I know his children, his wife. And one day he was trying to tell me about this. I've been trying to uncuck him, for going on a couple of years by this point when we're having this conversation. And this conversation was probably like 2 years ago. And we're having this conversation, and then out of nowhere, I don't know how it came up in the conversation, but somehow he brings up this non-white athlete, from that plays on some team. And I guess he was saying that he met him or bumped into him somewhere or something, and I'm like, okay. And he's smiling and excited because he's a sports cuck. And he's like, yeah, it was like the real, the da-da-da guy, Lee Laquan DeFonchen, And I'm like, okay. And the guy was like, dude, he's got like the high jump record. Uh, he's the only one who's broke some so and so's high jump record in basketball in like 35 years or whatever, some stat it was, some typical useless nogball stat. And I looked at him square in the face and said, I don't give a flying fuck if he can jump 50 feet in the air. He's just a non-white to me. And I turned around and walked away. And that is the level of baseness and attitude about non-whites that you have to have. You have to be fully uncucked. You have to be fully based. That is what Jack is, and was very impressed with his rants. And I really, truly, really hope and will subscribe immediately again to him that he starts a new channel. Please do, Jack. If you chime in, please start a new channel. Whatever you got to do. Don't do the by any means necessary and let them dox you and all that. But just, go through all the motions of make yourself 2 new emails. You know the drill. You know the process, how to do it. You've probably already been deleted before. So you got to do it that way to get back on. So do what you got to do to get back on as without doxing yourself. Use that burner phone. Use a couple of fake new emails. Well, they're not fake, but a couple of new emails. You may even have to start using a different device, so that they don't notice your device, and then flag your whole channel. What else? I wish you well, man. I wish you the best, Jack. I hope that you're back online, lickety split. I hope you spend tonight building all the things you need to get you a channel started tomorrow. And the moment you get yourself going, leave me a comment in the comment section of the most recent community post or video or live stream, I should say, that I do. And I will absolutely and immediately go sub to you and continue tuning in to your amazing rants. Very, very, very impressed with Jack's rants. And y'all should know, who've listened to me for a long time, that I don't give out glaring reviews to almost anyone. I almost always have something to pick apart about every different, influencer online, whether it be, Charlie Kirk or Fuentes or whoever. And even the I was about to say the Lotus Eaters, but not them. Backlash, since they're and Elijah, since they're not so much Elijah, but Backlash particularly, they cuck for the Catholic Church. They shill for the Catholic Church, it seems like, or at least the one guy does, and so not down with that. You know what I mean? I'm not cool with any of that. But I mean, when it comes to hardcore baseness, I mean, Jack is pedal to the floor. Let's do this. It's go time. And I'm with it. I love it. It's the energy all of our white people need. It's the rage all of our white people need. And this rage that all white people need, it's righteous indignation. We have a right, and our hatred is godly, and we have a right to have it. And we do not have to be apologetic for our disdain and anger and hatred of non-whites, or of the Jews and their billions of non-white bioweapons of mass destruction that they inflict upon us. Let's see here. Jesse Pinkman had stopped in and said something, but he retracted it before I could get to him. My apologies for not getting to your comment sooner. Yumjoy Style said, yeah, that 10-second into the future theory Anthony has could just be them realizing the consequences of being arrested and that jail is where they're going. Yes, and it almost appears as though they do have multiple seconds that they can think in the future, but then when they act out the next moment, you're like, oh, I guess they can't. So, yeah, I really think it's just in the moment, right then, not even 10 seconds in advance, or into the future. Let's see here. Evan Smith said, he said in a stream that he has had like 14 channels, and I'm off with the number, but it was definitely a lot. Okay, well, hey, then he knows what's up. He knows what to do. He knows how to do it. And so I absolutely pray and look forward to and hope that uh, he will have another channel up and going like rapido. Um, because there are very few people on YouTube I've ever encountered or listened to who are as based as I am or more based. And so it's an absolute delight for me to put on a Jack stream and allow him to be the one who goes off while I'm taking a mental break from being the one who does it myself. And, the biggest problem I had with uh, other influencers that I like listening to and that I even would support and promote, perhaps, um, they still get certain things wrong. You know, like obviously mostly in the lyrics, but they get things wrong, and or not lyrics, but in their what's the like they believe certain narratives. That's, I guess, what I was trying. I don't know how I got the word lyrics in my head. Um, they follow certain narratives, they believe certain narratives, and that and so they, even if they have like base takes about a lot of things, so that they're good enough that I enjoy listening to them. None of them are remotely as based openly, especially based at all, but based openly on top of it all, as Jack is. I absolutely love that about him. I don't know what kind of occupation he has where he can, kind of be publicly known and still do his rants without getting in any kind of problems with work, but I'm very grateful that he does have a situation like that and that he's able to and had the wherewithal to uh, go ahead and start interacting with people, even probably at under risk of losing his job at first. But he's powered through. He's still doing it, and just super grateful for Jack. And I really, really, really hope that his channel has not been purged. Um, really hope that's not the case. And if it is, our apologies to you, sir. And make yourself any old sign you want, and we'll get it hung and powered up. Let's see here. And Evan Smith also said, not complaining about this, just pointing this out. He said a lot of very Fed Post E. Sorry, I got something blocking the words there. He said a lot of very Fed Posty things in a lot of his streams. I was worried that it would get him taken down. Maybe it finally did. So I guess you're referring to homeboy that got popped, right? Um, all right, yeah. Um, yeah. Uh, all right. I think yeah, that is. That's everybody in the chat that so I've made it through the chat to the end. Um, uh, Evan Smith said, "Not complaining about this, just pointing this out." He said a lot. Yeah. So I mean, who knows? But uh, yeah. Sorry, I was distracted too about something, but yeah, Jack. I mean, the thing is, people when they hear my stuff, they call it Fed Posty, and people would listen to my streams and they would call me, the scary R word and the fascist and the bigot and all the things. And and I've been called a Fed and a glowy and all that normie crap that they like to call, people who are in true dissent. Um, but the thing is, like, where normies get it all wrong is like Feds and glowies, which are really the same thing. They don't typically come out acting like they're pro-white, and being like, we gotta freaking take charge and kick ass and take names and all that. They don't really come out swinging like that. Um, how do I articulate this a good enough way? Um, basically, Jack and I, we are trying to push the envelope further. We're trying to get white people snapped out of their cuckery. And the only way that that's ever going to happen is uh, the if our people start listening more to people who push all the way like Jack and I do. Um, we don't try to pussyfoot around. We don't try to use conservative terminology to avoid certain words, certain descriptors. Um, if we want to blame blacks or call out blacks or say it's because blacks, I saw it, uh, we're down to do so. And the same goes for, any other kind, but especially for for the blacks. And so, when we are on a Jack stream, he's basically laying it down. He's uh, just super impressed with how based he was. I was so impressed, and I found myself over and over again saying, "Yes, yes, that's exactly right. Yes, exactly." And it's rare to enjoy uh, someone else while your feet are kicked up, kicking butt and taking names for us and giving presentations and whatnot. And so I hope that I hope he gets another channel started, and he can say all the Fed posty things he wants once he's back up on a trailer. Um, let's see here. Oh, Slow Boy Whiteboard is here. Hello. He said good morning. Or she, sorry, say good morning. Hello, and God bless. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for stopping by. All right. Yeah. And as I want to kind of circle back to what I was talking about before with white people. I never really got to fully finish my point, even though I did kind of cover most of it. Um, white people are expected to live among deadly animals, right? Um, and white people use color schemes and pattern behavior and colors to determine whether things are deadly to us or not. And 99% of blacks are potentially deadly to white people. Um, so, and insisting that white people go out and about, throughout the day, every day, it's sorry, I was reading something there. Uh, it's too tall of an order to ask white people to correctly guess what blacks are not going to be violent to them and what blacks are going to be violent to them when they get on train cars, when they sit down in the movie theater, when they get on an elevator, which no white woman should ever get on an elevator when there are any males in the elevator. Do not get, and this don't mean if it's not like a during the day super fancy hotel, but I just mean, if it's got a fancy chandelier and small doorways and not that massive of a hallway for them, uh, then it's probably more. Well, anyway, the bottom line is white people cannot be expected to look at a black and be able to correctly determine whether or not that black is going to harm them if they get near enough, or if they relax or anything like that. And Fuentes said the other night, I think it was last night or something on his stream, uh, that he's not really willing to uh, take the risk. He's like, I don't want to roll those dice. I don't want to uh, hope that I'm not wrong every single time. And that's what we're asking white people to do. We're asking white people to perfectly determine every black around them, to perfectly determine which blacks are dangerous to them, which blacks are not. And keep in mind, only 1% of blacks are not dangerous to us. So you're basically expecting a mission impossible situation out of our white people just for blacks living among us, you know? And that's just, it's ridiculous. It's stupid that we would have to expect that of white people. And Slow Boy Whiteboard is here. God bless you. And thank you for stopping by. Hello and good morning to you. God bless you. And I said, I think I actually already said that earlier, but maybe I didn't. No, maybe I didn't. In case I didn't, I just wanted to say it again. God bless you and good morning. And let's see here. Evan Smith said, not sure what you said about Jack, but I hope we see him again here on YouTube soon. Oh, did you miss that part? I did cover that. Maybe you left and came back. I did just address your Jack comments. I love Jack very much. I'm very grateful and impressed with his rants. I did not know that I wasn't subbed to Jack, and I didn't know that he had a channel and was doing all of that until fairly recently on one of the streams when I told you all to let me know if you had a channel and posted pro-white stuff to let me know and that I would sub. Well, I ended up subbing to him, realizing that I hadn't been subbed. I went ahead and subbed to him, and I think it was based on someone else's suggestion. And then one night, one of his streams popped up when I was, sitting down. So I clicked on it, and I was blown away. I was utterly impressed. I give him an A+ for his basedness, and you know me probably by now. I don't give glaring reviews to almost anyone, and Jack earned it in an instant. I mean, he came right out of the gate on that stream saying all the things that need to be said, and we are very much in alignment. I mentioned earlier when I was first addressing this reply about what you had requested, talking about Jack, I said that there's only one thing I vary on him about, and that is that he said that perhaps an okay way to deal with the blacks is to give them their own section of our country. I disagree politely and respectfully disagree. I think that all non-whites, not think, I just based on what God says, and so my position is that all non-whites have to go. They all have to be swept, just like a theme park sweeps everyone out. And then if someone is allowed back in, they worry about that after they've cleared every single person out. And that's what we got to do. We got to drive them all out, and then we can spend the next 200 years letting one or two back in if we want. But I say that's foolish, and that we should never have any here. I think 0.0 is the only proper number if for any white country. And so listening to Jack's streams are an absolute pleasure. And I hope he posts them also to Rumble or somewhere else. If he has not yet, I hope he does so in the next night or two. Let's see here. Oops. Messed it up. Okay, there we go. But yes, Jack, I hope to God his channel did not get taken down. because I was planning on doing a reverse marathon and go backwards through all his streams, starting with the most recent one that I had not listened to, and I was going to work my way backwards. Um, so I definitely hope that Jack, if his channel hasn't been deleted, that's great. And if it has, I very much hope that he will start a new one and then hop in the chat here, not the chat, but the comment section of my most recent video or my most recent community post. Jack, please put your link in either one so that we know what's up with you and so that we know that you're all right. And let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Boom. Evan said I was replying to. Oh, let's see. Slow Boy Whiteboard said he has a new channel. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Do you know what it's called? Evan Smith said I was replying to Slow Boy Stay White. Okay, my bad. I don't know what you were talking about. My bad. All right, Yumjoy said, give Slow Boy a wrench and Jack's channel can be linked in the comments. Okay. See if I can do that easily from here. Add as a moderator. I think that's what does it. I'll just make him a standard mod because I don't want anybody modding for real, but I think that's what does it, right? Oh, it didn't give him one. I could have swore that's how you give him one. Yeah, I thought that's how you get one. Oh, maybe you gotta be. I'm gonna remove it and then I'm gonna try the other one. Let's see if I can try the other one. As mod, managing mod. Let's see. There we go. Now it's got one. Bam. All right. Thank you much. I will. Okay. All right. His new channel is named Jack. That's all it's named. So he did a thing a little while ago. I just gave him his like. I will check that out later. Nice 47-minuter. Very cool. 48 minutes, really. Very cool. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Wow, something just exploded. Far off in the distance, but it was a for real explosion. Like, kaboom. Whatever that was. Dadgummit, I felt that in my chest. Must have been a semi-tire or something. All right. Thank you all for that. That's great. Because I did not know that about Jack's channel. That's terrible that got knocked down. Great to see that he's already got a new one going, but man, what a bummer. He's going to have to start over from scratch. And we just had, I guess, Shameless Spurg got knocked out the other day, and he's gone. Also, Dadgum, what's his name? Something I MMA. Uh, I forget what his name was, but um, the Irish guy, he got deleted. Where the heck did that go? Oh, maybe I left it outside. Get me a fresh drink and then I'll go out there and get it. Uh, Critical Eye. That's what his name was. Critical Eye MMA, the Irish guy. He was deleted right around the same time Shameless Spurg was deleted. And I was starting to get a little irked by Shameless Spurg. His, I don't know, his hubris got to be a little much, like suddenly and rapidly, and it was ramping up more and more. He was getting like super cocky, and I'm still upset that he's gone. I'm still not happy that he got deleted or anything, but I don't know. I didn't care much for how he was taking to all his newfound success. He seemed like I don't know. He just seemed a little too boastful about it or something, and just not as humble as I'd like to have seen him be. But yeah, he got. Critical Eye MMA got. I don't know what's up with Spurg. I don't know if he started a channel on somewhere else, YouTube, Rumble, or Odyssey, or somewhere else. But I enjoyed his videos, and so yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, we're so far gone right now. Our people are so far down, and they just cannot seem to grasp the concept, like we've really got to do something. I mean, white people have got to snap out of their bullshit. And the sooner the better. I mean, we're already way, way, way past time. And it's just, it's maddening, that we're having to force our white girls and our white women and our children to live like this. I mean, it's absurd. It's pathetic. Our ancestors would be so ashamed of us, so disappointed in us. And they would especially be disappointed, maximum disappointed, very ashamed of the sports cucks, and of all the rabid leftists, the self-loathers. They'd be absolutely humiliated and ashamed and embarrassed on behalf of us. Yumjoy Style said, Critical Eye MMA. Yeah, he was helping me out there. Thank you for that. Yumjoy also said, I believe he's on Rumble. Yes, he is. And I've been getting notifications of his streams, but I haven't had time to go to any of them. Let's see here. Former RP MMA channel, now called RP, is another Irish guy that is more mainstream version of Critical Eye's channel. Oh, okay. I'll have to check him out. Yeah, and I mean, critical eye, I have a little bit of a irk with each person. I can't expect everyone to be perfect or perfectly aligned with my position. But so my quirk with him is he he stresses trying to get money from people because he doesn't have a job. And the other issue I have with him is that he's in a third world country, so he's digging on third worlder little females. And he feels like he was never going to get any play out of white girls anymore. Perhaps that's how he felt. And so he said, heck with it. If I'm not going to get any affection out of white women ever because they're all brainwashed and liars and cheaters now and all this stuff because they've been Jew cucked, then heck with it. I'll just go to a Central American country that respects me and treats me nice, and that the females will all happily clamor over each other for me, even though I'm not a 10 in white people. You could be a 3 in white people and go to a third world country and you'll get all kinds of play off the little third worlders. Um, and so a lot of white guys go that direction. They go do that instead. And we're not supposed to do that, y'all. We're not supposed to do that. As much as our women have a burden and responsibility to stay within our race, we do as well. And we just gotta, we've just gotta fight the resist. We've just gotta be the resistance, putting up the fight. We've got to uncuck our white women and our white girls so that they don't continue to be these, naive suckers. I realize all of that is a tall order. I realize that all of that is a lot to ask, but it is doable. It is possible. If our God blesses us, we are capable. Evan Smith said those stream replays were gold. Sad that they're gone. Yeah, I hope he re-uploads them on his new channel. Hopefully we'll have to ask him to do that and see if he'd be all right with doing that. Hopefully he saved a bunch of them and can just simply re-upload them. Really hope that's the case because I was definitely looking forward to listening to many a rant of his. And I still will. I'll be tuning into the one when this stream ends. I'm going to do me a donation and then I'll probably put his stream on and jam on that video before I go to bed. Let's see. Yumjoy said, so he started showing Spurg behavior. Former RP channel, now called over as another Irish guy. Okay, I read that earlier. Slow Boy, Whiteboard said, I thought that chick was a Jew. Which chick? Chick. What chick did I mention? I don't remember now. Yumjoy Style said, who, Iryna? Lots of Ukrainian Jays, so I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I don't think she was Jewish. She doesn't really give off that appearance. She don't have the nose, and her blonde hair is nice and pretty and natural and stuff. So I don't know. I don't think she's Jewish. And besides, if she was Jewish, they would, turn it into somehow the Jews would flip it and they'd be victims and all this shit, and we'd be having to give them extra money. Yumjoy Style said, I have my own issues with Critical Eye. He's definitely just an educated simp. He has happy glimmer in his eye when he gets the slightest female attention, like he's not used to it. Yeah, I mean, God bless him. He's probably had a hard time, getting white girls to, the standard is pretty high now to be able to get a white girl. I mean, you pretty much got to be on your A game. And even being on your A game, you still have to be attractive to women. And not that he's a bad looking guy in any way. It's just that white girls are going after, certain trendy looks. And so the white girls that are going after white guys, not all white girls are, sadly, right now, but the proper, normal, healthy, sane, uncorrupted white girls who are going for white guys. Right now, it seems like they're trending where they like the jock weird hair where it's like overgrown in the front, it's all bushy on the top and in the front, kind of shaved almost on the sides. Not really a mullet, but kind of getting there. Only it's short in the back. It don't have any kind of long hair in the back, but just it's like the top of the head's kind of mulleted. They seem like they've been into that recently. It's basically the new country boy look that you can do with or without the mullet part in the back. And I don't mean to bring up hair as like the first thing I'm mentioning or whatever, but like I don't know. It's a tough gig out there, for us guys. You really got to have a little bit of looks going for you. You got to be able to use it. And again, like I said, he's not a bad looking guy at all. So, I think his best benefit would be to smile more. I've noticed that I can keep girls from smiling at me if I don't smile at them when I interact with them. And I can be saying, I've experimented with this. I can even be saying super polite things. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much. Even give them compliments, like say something like, I like your name. That's a pretty name or whatever, but never actually smile. They will stop smiling too. They'll be smiling at first because that's their job. But over time, if I'm not smiling, their smile goes away. So I've experimented with that multiple times, and it always seems to turn out the same way every time. That if I stay smiling while I interact with folks, then they end up smiling back. So I think that's part of what could help him a lot with the ladies, is if he would learn to smile at the ladies. Um, you know, that's going to help him more than just about anything, probably. Um, and and the other thing is, he wants to kind of live off YouTubing, like most YouTubers get suckered into. But the problem is, I mean, even if he's in Colombia or wherever where the cost is low, you still got to make more money than just $300 in a month. You know what I mean? I mean, you need to have a damn job where you're making real money. Well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say real money like you're gonna be making killer money off a job, but just any job's gonna pay you more than $300 a month. So, and I realize in his mind he's like, well, I just need the channel to grow, and once the channel grows, then I'll be able to make 3,000 to 5,000 a month or something. But he'd be having to crank out uh, you know, he'd be having to do so much. Um, he'd be having to crank out so many videos to try to make that kind of money to live like he has a job, that he just wouldn't be able to generate that kind of cash, perhaps. And I realize that's the goal and that's the dream of everybody who suddenly gets a little thing going for him on YouTube. But all that would happen is once he gets himself established, they'll take away his monetization off one random video that he does, and he's right back to square one. Even if he doesn't lose his channel, he'll be right back to square one when it comes to, uh, you know, needing income. So I think he should just get a job so they can quit asking for money all the time on YouTube. Of course, he can still put up a little thing about it, but at least during the day, he's, doing something else. Um, another thing I warned him in his comment section kind of early on when I discovered him that, any random day, some envious non white could attack him. Yumjoy said her blonde hair looks fake, and some J females look passable. Look at Gal Gadot or Gadot, Natalie Portman, Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, I heard that Scarlett Johansson is Jewish. Even if she claims that, I don't know that I buy that. A lot of people, a lot of white people, a lot of white families have been cucked into telling their generations of children and then grandchildren after them that they have a Jew in the family or an Indian in the family. Tons and tons and tons. I would say tens of thousands of white families in America have duped themselves into believing that they have an Indian in their ancestry, like from the 1600s or whatever. And 99% of the time, it's completely untrue. And it's just a rumor that they started believing among the family, and then it started being taught from generation to generation. Oh, your great great grandma was an Iroquois Indian. Meanwhile, the entire family's all blonde hair, blue eyed, redhead, green eyes, It's like, oh yeah. We magically went from being Indian mongrels to white people again with all the white traits again. Yeah, right. Um, Remember, our Holy Bible says you will know them by their fruits. And fruits doesn't mean the end results of their effort, it means children. You will know them by their children. Okay, so if you wanted to know if I was a mud scraper, if I was a white man mud shark, you would know by my children, by my fruits. I'd have some fugly little black-haired mongrel roaming around my house, wasting all of God's air. And that's how you know about certain single moms. You see a single mom's got herself a fugly mongrel in tow, you know to stay as far away from as possible from her. You know you don't want anything to do with that particular white girl right there, that she's already been defiled. She's already even produced an abomination from it. Slowboy Whiteboard said, yeah, even Lauren Southern and Laura Loomer, they get rhinoplasty and bleach their hair. Yeah, I know about Laura Southernstein, and Laura Loomer's like freaking obvious. Her behavior proves she's a Jew. Even if she didn't have the nose for it and the hair and everything else, the face, her whole face is Jewish. Um, Ain't enough rhinoplasty in town to get rid of her Jewishness. You have to cut her entire nose off and then something else too, probably reshape her head. But Lauren Southern, we all knew was a Jew like way early on, and you know, she only had, excuse me, had to stretch there. She only had, a certain amount of simps viewing her. And then, of course, the Jays were bumping her numbers up to make her look like she was mega popular. And as usual, she became mega popular because of that artificial boost. But she ended up, showing her colors like really early on. And then so did Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer was showing her ass right out of the gate. She was acting like an Emma Lazarus or whatever. And, she started off, one of her things that really got her going was when she was doing controlled opposition, where she was denouncing something the Jews were up to and whatever. And, and then she had to do a balance of trying to woo in conservatives, but still maintain this controversial kind of I'm going against the grain position of the rest of her Republican base that she was wooing in, of what she really believed in her political principles. Or at least she was going against the grain of what all her fan base, her new conservative fan base, what principles they went by. And so Laura Loomer's obviously a shill and a Jew. Um, but the thing is, it is true that there are anomalous Jews that have all the white people's features and they can blush and all these things, but it's very, very rare. It's actually not like a super common occurrence. Um, and we know this by looking at the Jewish World Conferences. Every Jewish male in the room has brown hair or black hair, and they all have brown eyes. Some of them, once in a while, will have blue eyes, but they're like a mongrel blue eyes. They're not white people blue eyes. So, I hear something like, "Oh yeah, Scarlett Johansson or Iryna, yeah, they're freaking Jews probably, or they are." Um, I don't necessarily fall into that category. I haven't seen enough evidence to, confirm that. So, and, her behavior was nothing like a Jew either. I mean, Scarlett Johansson's behavior isn't really like a Jew, nor is Iryna's, as far as we know. Um, uh, let's see here. Let's see. Yumjoy at Slowboy. Yup, the amount of girls you think are white but are Jays is astounding. Supergirl, blonde hair, blue eyes from the 1980s movie is a J. The Paul brothers are Jays. Just because they look white doesn't mean they are. The $5 Indians and the Jays in America are very different. There is this anti-white people girl online that has blonde hair, blue eyes, that dates Nogs. She revealed she has a black great-grandmother. Can't always trust the fruits. Well, I mean, that's just her claiming that, you know. So she wouldn't be able to recover and have all white traits after having a black grandmother. That wouldn't be the case. You know, her parent would have been a mongrel from that black, and then that mongrel would have gave birth to her, which would have just produced another mongrel that looks like a mongrel. White traits are not something that you can just out generation back into. Once there's a mongrel in the family, that's it. The white traits are pretty much trashed. So, because mongrels only produce more mongrels. Let's see. If they're famous, they're Jays. Sneeko is a vocal Muslim, but let it slip that his dad was a J. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a random anomalous J that has like traits that seem like they're white people traits, but they aren't, necessarily exactly like white people traits. Like the mongrel blue eyes thing and all of that. But yeah, all you gotta do is look at any World Jewish Conference, and everyone there will have brown hair, brown eyes, or black hair and brown eyes, and there will be practically almost no blonde in the entire World Jewish Conference. Nor redhead, nor green eyes, and blonde hair, or any of those things. And it's just a sea of freaking brown hair and black hair and mongrels. I mean, that's just what they look like. And that's why Laura Loomer was easy to detect. Lauren Southern, Lauren was, a fake blonde. But, I don't always go by that because a lot of white girls who are brunettes, do the bleach blonde thing. And which I happen to like that when they do it. Actually, I kind of dig the bleach blonde look a little bit. I even kind of like it the way where like when it starts growing out a little bit and their real color is at the very center of their hair. Like you could see it in the roots that it's actually a darker color, but then like right away you can see where the hair just all becomes blonde. And it's kind of a good look on our girls. It looks kind of nice on the brunettes. And so I don't really, when I see that, I don't automatically go, aha, this is a J that just bleached her hair blonde, so she's trying to look like a blonde and blah, blah, blah. Because our girls have been doing that, all through the generations. But Lauren's behavior proved she was maybe even if I don't want to go along with the idea that she is a J or whatever, she definitely is a shill for them. You know what I mean? She definitely is on their bankroll in some way, or was when she was being artificially boosted. I mean, there are definitely behavioral traits that she exhibited that are Jewish traits. But I don't, like the bleach blonde thing doesn't really necessarily trigger my Jadar. I go by basically their behavior, and of course lineage, if the lineage is easily provable. But it's not so easy for us to prove. A lot of these celebrity types, they'll claim they're Jewish because that they know that Hollywood runs, is Jewish owned. So if they claim they're Jewish, well, they'll get more work. So let's see here. Yumjoy said Scarlett Johansson has had a nose job for sure. People online have done the visual comparisons, and ScarJo has started claiming she's a victim of the male gaze now. Or ScareJo. Maybe that's what you meant, ScareJo. Oh, it means Scarlett Johansson. Well, I mean, the thing is, she's a pretty girl and the whole thing, so she's going to get guys gazing at her, so I don't know why she would be miffed by that. If anything, she should expect that and I guess want that, right? But yeah, I mean, they all exhibit some form of either Jewish chivalry or Jewry within themselves. And it's just that, I think a lot of white people are just told they have a Jew in the family. A lot of these white celebrities definitely will say that they have a Jew in the family just so they can claim Jewishness, just so they can keep getting work from Hollywood. I mean, we're talking about just a simple claim like that can help them score a $40 million movie. So, you know, well, here's another good example. Sammy Davis Jr., he claimed he was a Jew and he wore a freaking Star of Rim fan on his neck every day, and he was famous for having it on his neck every day. And there's nothing Jewish about that freaking nog. He's just a dumb nog that was thinking he was one of the Hebrew Israelites, But the Jews entertain all of that, and they sponsored him and promoted him and artificially boosted him and forced him into fame. Not forced him, like, against his will, but, like, imposed him into our white society as though he's famous and ought to be famous and everybody ought to like him and everybody ought to know who he is. And all the while, he was wearing that Star of Rimfan necklace all along the way. And he wore that just to keep the Jews keeping him working. And he hoped that would make him, it was a fierce competition between all the blacks of who could become famous. That's why Stevie Wonder faked being blind. Stevie Wonder was not blind. He just pretended to be blind so that people would have sympathy for him. And then when he could play piano as good as the next black that knew how to play piano, he would get like extra credit in the white people's minds, because after all, he's playing piano as well as the other blacks that were competing for that spot, but he's doing it allegedly blind. And so because he was an oddity within an oddity, he knew that would help him be picked over other black piano players who were as good as he was or better. And sure enough, because he was an oddity of an oddity, because having a blind artist is an oddity, and then a black was already considered an oddity, so it was a double oddity. His plan worked. He was chose over, other blacks that played better than he did. And it was mostly because of the oddity of him being blind, allegedly. And so, because of all this fierce competition among blacks, Sammy Davis Jr. figured the smartest way was just wear a Jewish Star of Ram fan on his freaking neck, where it's visible for everyone to see every time anyone looks at him. And then, boom, he's going to basically Jew other blacks out of work so that he can gobble up the work. So that's pretty much what was up with him. And I say all that just to say that just goes to show that that's just one example of someone who claims they're Jewish, wears the jewelry, wears a piece of jewelry claiming they're Jewish, and the whole thing. when really they aren't a Jew at all. And so, I think that applies to white people too back then, that not all of them were Jews that, some of the right wing think may be. Um, let's see here. Yumjoy said, yeah, he called his dad white, but corrected it to J because they're used to crypto J. Talking about Sneeko, I guess. I don't even remember what Sneeko looks like. I've seen his name quite a few times. I think I even watched a debate between him and someone, but I have no idea what he looks like right now off the top of my head. Yumjoy Style said, these black Hebrews definitely think they're the ones of the Bible, though. Yeah, they do. And Sammy Davis Jr., whether he was really a sucker and actually believed that, that blacks or Hebrew Israelites or any of that, I don't think he did, but who knows? All that matters is that the Jews saw him wearing that all the time. And every time you ever saw him anywhere, any photo shoot, any movie, any picture he's in, that star is fully visible. And, for him, it didn't have to mean anything more than, you all my masters, give me some work. I'm promoting you. I'm sponsoring you. I'm using my fame to show your star. You know. And again, I'll also refer back to the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of white families who sincerely believe, even though they're completely ass wrong, that they have an Indian somewhere in their past, in their lineage. Um, but yeah, we've been running tonight for a good little stretch, and I just wanted to promote Iryna and her and keep her death fresh on our minds while the news and while all the right wing conservative shecklers are all going to focus from now on Charlie Kirk instead of having rage for blacks by the whites about the murdering of Iryna. Um, it's just it's awful, and I hope that we all can donate. I'm going to donate when I hop off here, and I hope all of you do as well. And just keep Sabbath. Teach your loved ones to keep Sabbath. Lead by example, by keeping it yourself, by doing it yourself, by talking about it, by treasuring it. Talk about it like it's a delight when you speak about it to others. Try to uncuck as many of our people as you can. Teach your daughters and women to stay the heck away from blacks, especially, but non whites in general, but especially blacks. Teach them that racism saves lives, saves white lives. And I guess I'll get going, but I just wanted to emphasize this girl. I know for a fact that the Jews orchestrated this event against Charlie. whether it's fake or real. They orchestrated this event to drown out the white rage against blacks for murdering Iryna, for the murder of Iryna, I should say. And it's going to work. It's going to be effective. We're not going to see almost any articles about her tomorrow. And it's going to get slower and slower every day that goes on afterward. And real quick, one more time, friendly reminder to everyone to stay away from heavily populated or famous or popular areas. It's September 11th, so I would avoid going to theme parks, fairs, festivals, concerts, any kind of mass gatherings. All right. I'll go ahead and let you all go for the evening. I appreciate that all of you stopped by, and I appreciate y'all's time and your comments. I like to debate so that we can hash things out. I like to see where we're all at as far as, our position on things. We are in this together, and soon we'll have all of ourselves back to back, firing outward in every direction in multiple packs like that all over the country as the war against white people ramps up harder and harder. But we got to put one foot in front of the other. We can't skip steps along the way. We have to pray. We have to honor our God's holy Sabbath every seventh day. You want all this to come to an end. You want all this murder and all this violence against our people to come to an end. We got to all start keeping Sabbath again. And we have to uncuck our white people about who the Jews are and who white people are. Anyhow, God bless you all. I'm sorry I didn't get to do a stream sooner about her. I'm sorry I haven't got to be in touch with you all at all the last couple of weeks, but had a very hectic couple of weeks. I did get to enjoy my Sabbath off, but I was exhausted, and I slept off and on all through the day. By the time I got around to thinking about, I should at least say happy Sabbath to everyone, it was coming up on its end. So I figured, heck with it. They know to keep Sabbath. I remind them every week. Hopefully, one of these streams in the future will be streaming about a win we've had. I know they're few and far between, but you never know. Once in a while, one pops up, Maybe we'll get to have one in the next month or so and be able to do some kind of stream about a victory for once, even if it's a small one. But in the meantime, we're taking L's left and right, and it sucks. And very, I'm very unpleased with our people and how they're so easily distracted from something like this. All for a famous dude who didn't even put our people first, who put the ones who hate us and hate Jesus Christ first and foremost above us. Let's refresh this and see. Okay, she's still at 330K. Well, all of you have a good day today. Have a safe 9/11. You know, avoid the groid. Avoid famous places. I recommend. Just a friendly recommendation, nothing more. And, you know, beyond, popular places, just, anywhere, populated places, just anywhere that's famous, anywhere that's notable. Just be on the lookout. And if something terrible ever comes on any particular 9/11 that happens on any particular year, you should already kind of expect it, where it doesn't shock you, other than just the fact that they finally went ahead and did it again to us. But we will power through this. We have to power through this. We have to keep the fight up. We have to keep pushing. And at some point, someday, somehow, we will be able to have our country back. We'll be able to have our pretty white girls roam the streets of our towns. Safe again, without having to worry about a tragic moment like this right here happening to them. Without having to worry about dying just because they wanted to go out for bread or for a night out on the town or for a movie. Or to come home from work. God bless all of our white people and their families who have been slain. My prayer is that the Holy Ghost protects all of you. And that we all do what we can to impress our Lord. Please Him enough where He will see to it to help us in this battle. We need His help. We have to have His help. We will not pull our own selves out of this mess without His help. So it's time we obey and pray. Because we're not going to get anywhere the way we've been trying things on our own without Him. Look at how far it's gotten us down in the hole. It's time to force our people to change course and turn themselves back to our God. And it's almost to the point where we're going to have to do so by any means necessary. So spend your time in thought and prayer of how we can accomplish this goal of pleasing our Lord. Try to think up new and more clever ways for us to be efficient with our faith, with our spreading the truth to our cucked people. God has given us this time frame in the future. We live in the future. This is the future. We have every technology at our fingertips. There are so many more opportunities that we haven't yet thought of that are available to us. All we have to do is think of them, come up with them. And there are many of us who are brilliant white people. There's no reason that we can't come up with better and better and better solutions, better and better and better approaches. So let's be in prayer, let's be in contemplation. And I'll see you all on the next one and eventually on the other side after this is all over. God bless you all. Thank you all for stopping by and saying hello and putting in your piece of the puzzles or pieces of the puzzle. I didn't expect it to go nearly this long. I'm shocked that I've had people hanging out the whole time. That's great, especially after we had to start the stream all over again. So thank you all very much for stopping by and saying hello and saying your piece. And I'm grateful for all of you who care enough to involve yourselves. And we are the people that our people in the future will talk about. Whether we lose or win, there will be some generation in the future who speaks about us in this time and how we put up the fight against all odds and against even our own people's agreement, against our own people's support. And they will appreciate our efforts. And regardless of any of that, God is appreciating our efforts right now. And that's all that really matters in the whole world. So let's just do everything we can, y'all, to impress our Lord. And we will come out on the other end victorious. My hope is that we can pull it off in our lifetimes so that we at least get to see some of the results of our efforts. And so we get to see with our own mortal eyes during this mortal trial we get. That we get to see our country restored. That we get to see our women and girls walk freely again wherever they wish. That we get to see our white utopia be restored. Oh, I long for it. Don't all of you? Let's stay in it. God bless you all. Talk to y'all real soon.